Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
Hello. Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. And it is an exciting day because we are here talking Royal Rumble. I feel like we should have done a countdown.
I missed it. And then the buzzer sound. I'm so looking forward to.
Yeah. Well,
obviously
maybe we'll do that tomorrow.
Yeah. Obviously, the Rumble's obviously had two pandemic pay-per-views, isn't it? You know, two editions obviously during the pandemic. No,
just the one. Just the one. Because it was just.
Oh, yes.
It was one of, like, remember, it was that Chamber, and then that was it.
Well, yeah. Okay. So I stand corrected then. Yeah, but it felt like a long time. It has been 2 years since we obviously last heard the crowd do the countdowns, and it's such an interactive match, isn't it? When you think about it, WWE have done a lot of stuff interactive in the past. Obviously, in their Ruthless Aggression series, they mentioned about obviously the problems they had with obviously Taboo Tuesday and Cyber Sunday, and obviously about fans wanting to know the attraction. Obviously, here we very much know the attraction. It's that Royal Rumble match, and it's all the kind of fantasy booking. It is like the fantasy booking. It's a dream, isn't it? Because you've got 30 outcomes of two matches.
Well, yeah. I mean, technically, yeah.
You have.
There's usually at least 6 or 7 that are like real possibilities, of course. But yeah,
it's all the unknowns, though, isn't it? It's the who's going to return, from injury, or who's going to return to the company now, I guess, potentially.
But that's it. Even in the match,
debut for the company.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah. You never know, that famous AJ Styles one. But even in the match, there are so many times when you go, okay, they could go this way, and this way. Someone goes out 5 minutes later, all of a sudden it could go this way. And then it depends on obviously where it is in the card. Or we have the title match already. Is the title match still to come? What's going to happen at Chamber? It is, like you say, it's a fantasy booker's dream, this pay-per-view. It's the one to get most excited for. And I think, like you said, you touched on it there, but hearing the fans count down, the klaxon and stuff like that, I'm so excited to hear it again.
Yeah, it's all part of the pay-per-view, isn't it? Like, it's just... Yeah, it's one of those events, like I say, like as well. And as from a fan perspective as well, this really is, all for me anyway, as excited as I get about wrestling for the entire year, because it is, like you say, obviously, those decisions most likely within the WWE offices have been made like already about obviously essentially who you're going to place in that main event spot for WrestleMania, in 3 months' time, and 2 and a bit months' time now. And from a fan perspective, it's so open, isn't it? It could be anyone potentially. And, it's so exciting because obviously tomorrow we wake up and we will have a men's Royal Rumble winner and a women's Royal Rumble match winner. And we will somewhat kind of know where we're going towards. Obviously the Chamber's in the way, and maybe I think they've got Fastlane in March as well. That could shake things up a little bit. Which, so actually something I want to discuss actually with you, because we mentioned about pay-per-views, and I think, is it good they have these pay-per-views where they can change stuff? Because I kind of think the Rumble, like before, it was always so exciting knowing that the Rumble winner was getting that match. But I feel we've seen in the past where these matches have changed, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, I want it nailed on.
Your tweet, of course, we can't roll out.
Oh, shut up,
Flair.
Yeah. No, I think traditionally I'd love it nailed on. I want it to be the Rumble winner. Like you say, we know who it is. I don't like when they add, like you say, people to it. Sometimes for storyline purposes, it works. Sometimes they're forced into it, like Daniel Bryan, it seems. But yeah, for me, it's traditional. And then there's pay-per-views in between are how we find out about the other world title, on the other brand. So that's the way I like it played. I don't mind every now and then when they do shock us. We've had it a few times where the titles change hand at Chamber and things like that, and it changed the route, or maybe we still knew who was going after the title, but the person they were going after in general was going to change, and they flip-flopped and went to a different show, and we've had all stuff like that before. But generally speaking, I don't want too many stopgaps before Mania. And although I've liked things about Fastlane, even the Chamber, should the Chamber be where it is? Because it's kind of sandwiched in between two of the biggest things in a year. Kind of maybe should get a bit of breathing space elsewhere. But at the same time, that does bring up that not B, because not the Rumble storyline isn't always the A storyline, but the other world title path. It is exciting to see that happen. So maybe it is still necessary to keep it where it is. But generally speaking, traditional.
I think it's just as well. It does help kind of maintain that level of excitement, and that anything can go, anything can happen in the WWE kind of thing. I do get you though. I think that it would be nice if they only maybe had one event between the two potentially. But obviously, with the the premium live event model that they're now doing.
PLE. Sorry, I keep forgetting. It's gonna take a while.
They obviously have to have one every month, it seems. So it's inevitable that's going to happen. But it would be nice to see. It would be nice to kind of see a focus on a different championship at the other two. I mean, I don't see why they couldn't move to that model potentially. Well, because the Rumble match is all obviously about the world titles. So obviously the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships for the women, and of course the WWE and the Universal Championship for the men. Obviously, we know now that. Well, they haven't mentioned it officially, but obviously with NXT rebranding to NXT 2.0, the NXT Championships are most likely not going to be included, obviously, in this discussion anymore. So it is a case of those two major world titles for the men and one for the women. So it would be nice, obviously, if they could do it, to focus maybe Fastlane and the Chamber around another championship, potentially the Tag Championships at one, potentially the mid-card, IC or United States Championship at the other, because it would be nice to kind of have that break and and that time to tell the story. But obviously, it does seem that they very much won't kind of go through a pay-per-view, for a PLE without a WWE or Universal Championship match.
Yeah, it's almost I think they think it's risky, even though I do think we've had tag chambers before and that worked well. So I wouldn't mind doing that. Quickly in with the comments already. Mythic Predictions, thank you very much for coming back. First time since Mania watching you guys, still awesome. Thank you very much. We really do appreciate it. Thank you for coming back. We are here before every PLE. There we go. I got it right. A premium live event, doing our build-up shows as well. And of course, we do our preview and predictions about a week out before the events. And then our recap and reviews come in the next day as well, which are always live. So they're always quite fun. But these build-up shows for me are definitely where it's at, because it gets very exciting, especially taking on all of your comments. But again, thank you for joining us. If you are new here or if you're returning like Mythic, please give us a little subscribe if you haven't already. And let us know what you think is going to happen tonight. Who are you excited to see? Who do you think should win the Rumble? What we're going to do, we're going to go through our what we've already predicted, and look back on, since things have changed over the week, some rumors have gone out there. I haven't seen much of Raw and SmackDown, I'll be honest. Me and you are probably the worst for this, Lucas, because we don't usually watch them. I saw some highlights quickly before I came on air and a few things on social media, but we'll kind of touch on kind of things that might have changed since. I don't know why, but I really get nervous before the Rumble. Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I think it's excitement. It's not nerves. I think we're getting confused maybe with nerves, but yeah, I'm the same. It's just anything can happen. It is so exciting. I mean, my biggest fear is that they kind of disappoint us. We've had those Rumbles before. Let's not pretend we haven't. We'll have to see some Jay White in there. Yeah, I would as well. We'll get into some Forbidden Door chat.
When we talk about, we've got loads to talk about.
We've got a lot of Forbidden Door chat coming on the way. But keep the comments coming, guys. We really do appreciate it. First up, let's talk about, let's go with the Grit versus the It couple. Firstly, with this one, we'll go on what we've already predicted, because this time around, we usually use the build-up to go into extra matches that have been announced, but nothing's really been changed since we did our predictions. So, Edge and Beth Phoenix versus The Miz and Maurice. Now, every single one of us, me and you, Lucas, but also Rob and Dan, who aren't with us today, they also went with Miz and Maurice, because we are all looking at it seems, as well, this feud's going to continue. Has anything changed your mind in the past week with that?
I guess maybe just obviously hearing now that we are still 2 events to go until WrestleMania, and it's just a case of, what will they do? I mean,
it's a long way. Yeah, it's a long way to drag it out.
I'm assuming Edge has had dates added to his contract because he seems to be wrestling much more, which is good because I think, they have to look at, Father Time is happening, whether you like it or not, and you can't keep people on like 2 match deals a year. There's no point. I mean, Goldberg makes sense, I guess, because that's Goldberg, I guess. It's like when he had Sting and they had him under contract and he had 2 matches before we had to obviously retire for that, that injury. But anyway,
injury,
like I don't know. It's just a case of, could they do this as a rematch next month? Would do they have maybe the girls wrestle next month and then at Mania they do something else?
I like that idea. Like you said, you mentioned it on the predictions. A lot of having the women go off and do their own thing for a little bit and then bring the feud back, I think would be an interesting way to do it.
Potentially, but yeah, no, I think it'll probably go as we predicted.
Yeah, I think so. I think I've seen other people's like chatter this week about who they think's going to win, and a few of them have gone the other way. I think kind of judging by the same kind of thing that we are of, can this really stretch out to Mania, or is it, I think other people were looking like you just said just there, like there's too many events in between to stretch it. But again, there is a way to do it. But then when you think about this feud started at the tail end of last year, and then it's then going to go, it's not often that happens, a feud that starts in December is still running in April. So Mania season, though, things can, stranger things can happen, have happened even. And we've got 4 big players there. So if anyone can successfully pull it off, I think they can. Let's talk about, we wouldn't change that, I don't think, even if we could. But they are locked in. And if you want to know what it's all about, it is about the predictions trophy. This is last year's one, and I will show this off as much as I can because I don't think I'll be picking it up this year. But I won last year's trophies. This is what we're looking at with a predictions table as well. If you've been joining us through the year, there's me right on the bottom. Yeah, I'm a little bit behind you, but Dan and Rob are sadly running away with it. But the Rumble could really change things because there's a lot of points on offer here as well. Let's move into women's title. So we've got Doudrop versus Becky Lynch. Obviously, as I mentioned in the predictions, great to see 2 representations of this side of the pond going at it in a big title match. So, and I'm sure these women, I imagine they probably knew each other on the circuit growing up. So it must feel amazing for these 2, especially at a kind of pay-per-view of the Rumble. It's kind of up there. It's not exactly it's being shoved on a random pay-per-view. It's a big match. But saying that, we've all gone quite confidently with Becky Lynch. And to me, nothing has changed in the past week. I don't think it would change as much as I would love to see Doudrop. I think realistically at this stage, you're not taking the title off of Becky. So, would you continue to agree?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think, WWE with the women, obviously, as we've established before, there's a handful of them that they continuously use and will put over, and I don't see anything breaking that mold. And it's annoying because it is to their own detriment because we've watched them over the past 2 years ruin this women's tag division. Just absolutely decide to ruin it because they can, because they're aware they've got so much talent, but they have no idea how to use some of it. Is the problem.
I genuinely, this is not a bit. I genuinely don't know who the women's tag champs are. Do you?
Is it? No, it's not Nikki ASH and Thingamajig anymore.
No, because they lost it, right?
Women's tag team champion.
Again, this ain't a bit. I'm just trying to prove a point here. Yes, me and Lucas might not watch the weekly shows, but it just shows what this title's become.
I'm actually think. The current champions are Carmella and Queen Zelina.
Cool. And nothing against them 2. I like both of them as well. There we go. We got it right there. Carmella and Vega. Thank you very much, Mythic. Anyway, but yeah, I didn't know that. Now that it's mentioned, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I remember seeing a promo and they had the title, so fair enough. But
well, the thing is, not just that, they've had them for 2 months. This is madness.
Have they?
Yeah, they won them November 22nd on Raw.
Did they really?
Yeah, in Brooklyn, New York. They've now held them for 68 days. They've held them for longer than what the previous champions, Nikki ASH and Rhea Ripley, held them for.
Wow, yeah, I didn't know.
And I don't even think I've ever seen this exist. It's baffling. It's absolutely baffling. And obviously, you know, they had so many tag teams at one point. You know, for the women, and we've seen it before our eyes, one by one. The Iconics, Riot Squad, you know, Natalya and Tamina and Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. I think, it's going back. I mean, Nikki ASH and Rhea Ripley are now feuding and split up. So out of the last 1, 2, 3, 4, every single tag team. There's no tag team. Basically, there's no tag team that they could actually give the belts to again out of all the tag teams that have previously held them. Well, sorry, they could do, but obviously they're.
But they'd have to be like getting back together, or
hiring them back,
essentially.
There's been 12 reigns. Obviously, Bayley and Sasha Banks had a couple. They're obviously both feuding, and one's obviously injured. The Iconics, both out of the company. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, obviously both feuding. But not feuding, but obviously both on opposite brand, different paths, so they get back together, I guess. Kabuki Warriors, Kairi Sane, no longer an active wrestler for the company. I don't think she actually works with them anymore, actually. I'm not too sure on that. But
I don't think so,
and obviously, then obviously Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Nia Jax out of the company now. And then Asuka and Charlotte Flair. You know,
can't see that happening again,
They cannot even they can't even recreate a match from like 6 months ago, essentially.
That's a bad sign. That's a bad sign. And they had so much potential as well. Like when the Iconics had them, even the Sasha and Bayley stuff, you know. But
I mean, we'll talk about more of these women, I guess. We're talking the Women's Rumble match. But in terms of this Women's Championship match, it does seem very much that it's going to be a Becky win. I can't see that really changing. As much as potentially I would like them to break the mold, because this is where, you know, going back to our first kind of question about, you know, these pay-per-views in between, like, would it really hurt anyone if Doudrop was to hold the championship and then lose it next month at the Chamber pay-per-view? Like, is anyone going to, like, was there going to be any serious repercussions for that? I think especially the women's belts, like, there've been so many of them, just have them for forever. Like, you know, Bayley had it for like a year, and Becky Lynch had it for a year at the same time.
I'm surprised Becky's had it so long.
Well, I'm also surprised that like Charlotte Flair, like her SmackDown women's title reigns have all been so short. You know, she's not been up there really. But yeah, I think Bayley and like so many of the people have had these belts forever and ever. And you know, like I said, it's at their own detriment, you could argue. Because
like you said earlier, like it is hogging that spot with the the 4 horsewomen, so to speak. You know, like shake it up. Like we need Liv Morgan getting a chance. Like she had Shayna Baszler should have been a champ by now. You know what I mean? Like there's so much they could have done. We got another comment here as well. Jump in quickly again with the women's division. Unfortunately, with the women's division, it was a select through of high tier wrestlers and then some just below high tier after a steep drop off in ability. Yeah, I mean I can see what you're saying there. I think those close to the high tier though, if they had the opportunity, I think that should Liv Morgan. You know, someone who's improved a lot and the fans have been behind, but she's still not been given that. I mean, that could be happening tonight. But again, we'll get into our Rumble.
Even someone like Shayna Baszler.
Shayna is someone who the fact that she never held the title and she dropped off after that incredible Chamber performance is
the last pay-per-view in front of fans. The last thing we were shown on a pay-per-view event before the world ended was Shayna Baszler single-handedly
destroying
everyone in the Chamber.
Yeah,
in the main event of that pay-per-view.
And since then,
I mean, there's a lot of what ifs with this, though, isn't there? It's like, what if Becky didn't get pregnant? You know, if obviously fans were obviously still around, because it must have been hard that year. I mean, obviously something potentially we've got to do on like a future episode, essentially, because it was a very weird Mania build-up, as we know, for the obvious reason. Obviously, the world decided to throw at us.
Of all the pay-per-views they had to quickly throw together as well. When you look back on it, you're right. Like Mania was of all the pay-per-views at PLEs. Well, the pay-per-views then that they had to be like, what's going? You know, you're right. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Not just that, but it's obviously someone like Shayna, like essentially her build to Mania was done without fans, and it wasn't. It was her first build. You know, her first build to WrestleMania is a main event essentially because it's for one of the women's world championships.
Yeah.
In the WWE, and it was done without fans. Same with Edge's comeback storyline, obviously against Orton. That obviously ended up being a lot of it without fans, and it was so fan based at first. You know what I mean? Like with the angles they did with obviously Beth, Randy Orton and Beth, and Randy Orton and Matt Hardy. Way back in the start of 2020. And there's so many, like you said, like what ifs of, if the COVID situation didn't happen, like potentially would Shayna Baszler have been the champion, and would you have seen more of her? But there's so many women they have that they could do much more with. Liv Morgan obviously mentioned a lot. And she had a lot of shine on her lately. In terms of this match, though, I think it'd be a good chance for people. I'm hoping that maybe Doudrop will show a side of her that obviously more of the UK fans will know. Obviously, this character, when we spoke to her, obviously I wasn't there, but from the interview and watching it, you see that she is very much behind this character. But you have to imagine there's a bit of her where she really wants to show the old, she was Viper obviously back on.
It's definitely coming through now, though. Like it's definitely there. She's pretty much just kind of they've hung on to the name, I guess. But you're right, it is getting more like what we knew of her over here, for sure. But yeah, and again, I'd love to see it. I just like I said on the original predictions video, this has just got kind of stopgap title defense written all over it for me. So sadly, again, I'd love it if they shook things up, but I can't really see it. Okay, watch Ronda come out and confront Becky. Well, we'll be getting to some of that chat later on, Mythic. Don't you worry. We've got a few things we want to talk about. Because on the predictions, we didn't even get into Ronda stuff then. We released it before all that stuff came out. So we'll definitely be chatting about that as well. Right, let's move on to another match that we've already predicted. But again, we're going to kind of just update ourselves on here. I think we keep the Rumbles to the end. So therefore, we'll go with...
Well, on that last match.
Go ahead.
I must mention that I just found out that neither women's championship has ever changed hands at the Royal Rumble. Neither the SmackDown or the Raw Women's Championship has ever changed hands at the Royal Rumble. So she's fighting against the odds.
Because I was going to say because Charlotte's in the thing as the champ as well, ain't she? So that's not going to happen either. So
So she could be making history, being the first person to do that.
That'd be nice.
I'll be saying that even though we all went the other way, I'm there and open for a Doudrop championship win tonight, even if it is a 24-hour thing or lose next month, or if she is going to go to WrestleMania as champion. That's all.
You don't know.
All those options, I'm all fine with because it'd be different, But I do think we're going to see Becky Lynch win, retain a championship, and we'll get to the women's Rumble pick, I guess, but I do think we will see her. That'll be the match.
Her and someone else. Right. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Right. Let's move on to Mr. Becky Lynch here with Seth Rollins facing his old teammate in Roman Reigns. And they recently did touch on this Shield kind of stuff on SmackDown. Like I said, me and Lucas don't really watch the weekly shows, but I did see the highlight of this just a little while ago where Roman basically said, I haven't forgiven you for what you did, for breaking up the Shield, basically, which is strange again because we've got a heel versus heel dynamic. But I'm enjoying this feud. I've got to say, I'm enjoying, we've said it all along, Roman Reigns has been phenomenal on this run. And Seth, I'm very pleased with how Seth has kind of turned things around, in my opinion. He was getting quite stale. And he's done quite well. So, and he's naturally built back up to the main event scene. However, I do not see him taking the title here. And let's see, what did we say the other day? Again, we all picked exactly the same. Me, you, Lucas, Dan, and Rob, who's not with us today, but they also joined us in picking Roman Reigns. And again, if there was ever anything I was willing to bet my house on, prediction-wise, it would be that Roman Reigns is still not losing this title.
It's the rumor mill is whirling, for this match. Well, I think for all of them really, but I mean mainly obviously the two World Championship matches for the men and the 2 Rumble matches, obviously, as we're going to get to very, very soon. Obviously, please make sure you describe, guys. Like I said before, we do this every single month before every premium live event. And obviously, you know, there's lots to come on the calendar. But yeah, like I think it's hard to say because, you know, the kind of current kind of thing that's going around is that one of the world champions for the men is losing their belt, entering the Rumble and then winning, you know, and it is looking like it's more likely to be Brock losing his championship. But then it's a case of it could also be Roman, you know, but for me, I think the person who beats Roman needs to be someone who they will make a star out of and make a big kind of thing. I mean, Roman Reigns has now held that championship since August of 2020. You know, he held it through the entirety of last year, and you know, a divisive figure. It's safe to say before that, someone who we've not really heard crowd reactions like, you know, since the days of John Cena. You know, he's absolute peak. But Roman Reigns had just an absolutely outstanding year inside the ring last year. I don't care if you're a fan of, you know, old school WWF, he was a fan of the newer stuff, AEW, Japan, or anything in between. Like, you know, you cannot look at the caliber and quality of his work last year, you know, and say it was bad. It was an awesome year, you know, for Reigns. And, you know, he'll be looking to obviously continue it into this year. And I don't know, I don't see it ending like to Rollins as Rollins is now, as much as I'm a fan of Rollins, and I think you are a fan of his dress sense potentially.
Of course. Oh, there we go. Nice time to plug another video there, Lucas. Good one. Oh, do we have a? There it is.
There it is.
Oh, check that video out, guys. Check that video out. Me trying to dress like Seth Rollins, but I am a fan of the man. Yes.
But yeah, I think we are. You know, and obviously, it's one of those where you realise, you know, sadly that this year's 10 years since the Shield, and you know, it's making us all feel a bit old. I think because obviously for that, you know, I remember it happening, and they were new. They were, you know, they were the new kids on the block, weren't they? At one point, and now obviously they are the main eventers for the SmackDown side of things, anyway, of the Rumble pay-per-view, which is, you know, which is great. As much as obviously people can slag off the WWE for decisions that they've made with other people.
Yeah, they've done well by these guys. Yeah. You could argue that Dean went a bit at times, and obviously hence why he's left. But he still was, you know, world champ quite a bit, and there were definitely things I would have done differently. I always thought Dean was going to be the biggest star at the beginning, at least. He was the greatest. He was the best on the mic. He was the most intriguing, and then the others came into their own as well. But yeah, you can't argue that they weren't exactly a flop. These 3 boys, were they?
No, they've done more than well. You know, more than earned spots as main eventers. Obviously, Dean now obviously over as Moxley in AEW. And obviously, congratulations on obviously him completing his rehab stuff. I know that's more important really than the wrestling, you'd argue. And obviously, hopefully he's in a much better place and he's able to obviously fulfill stuff obviously over in AEW. Potentially, I don't know, one day we might see him back.
You never know. You know. Yeah, he looked great by the way on that return as well. I saw a great image like side by side, and you really realize, you know, how much his health is kind of improved. So that's fantastic to see.
Yeah, and that's what it's about, you know, whatever side of the fence that we're looking at it from. You know, because these people, like you say, you know, the Shield was such a massive deal, you know, and I don't think it's really sunk into fans, you know, how big a deal they were at the time. Because WWE, you know, with stables in particular, like there's been a high caliber that was set obviously with DX and obviously NWO and WCW obviously, and Evolution obviously at the start of the 2000s. But then you'd argue that every other stable since, they've just, like with tag teams, they've gone the way of just splitting them up.
Yeah, the Nexus got ruined.
But the Shield, they decided, you know, this is going to be the stable which we're going to just absolutely give them the ball and let them run with it. And they did, for a good couple of years. And, you know, all the stuff that came out of the Shield, you know, just proves that obviously, you know, it was such a great thing for people to be part of. And, you know, it's weird because obviously, you know, they haven't been away long enough, I guess, for some people to give them, you know, as highly as they might perhaps deserve. But I think definitely in the next few years, people will be talking about them. Well, I think they already are, you know, when it comes to best tables of all time, do you know what I mean? Like they're up there in, you know, the discussion, you know, and for what they've done since. But in terms of this match, this pay-per-view, I don't think it's quite the right time for Rollins to do it. I think obviously they need to build someone up to beat Reigns, and if it isn't, I think I'm fine Rollins winning. Like if it is, Rollins wins because he wins. He is just going to be the guy, and we've seen him be the guy previously, and he can be the guy again. But I don't think he'll win, and it not be anything else to do with the Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman kind of storyline that's going. And I don't want a cheap way out here, basically, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like, Seth could definitely take that place, that position, but it just doesn't feel like the right time. I feel like after all this, if Roman Reigns lost it a few months before WrestleMania to Seth Rollins, doesn't make much sense to me. Now, we've got a suggestion here, though, from Mythic Predictions about who could do it. Now, I do think this is a bit out there, but I could see it. Okay. Just not yet. It's a time frame thing that doesn't make sense for me. Time-wise, doesn't make sense, but I can picture it. And that is Bron Breakker needs to beat Roman. Now, Bron Breakker's getting a big push in NXT 2.0. He is that brand, in my opinion. Now, he feels like the kind of character, the young, fresh, like when Brock Lesnar came in and did similar. I could see that if we were in a kind of different time frame with this. If he was already on the main roster, it would still be quick, but I could kind of see it then. And they would have to be sure, because they've done stuff like this before and they've got to be very, very careful with it. If I'm playing fantasy booking in a computer game, sure. But in real life, I don't think the time frame lines up. But it does feel like it feels like that kind of Kurt Angle rookie year, Brock Lesnar rookie year type thing. I could see it in that sense. But still, that takes a year, which, he's in NXT bossing it there. So he's probably not going to come up just yet. Who knows? He might be in a Rumble tonight. But even if he is, does that mean he goes up to the main roster, as I think we're calling it again, because NXT doesn't seem to be the third brand anymore. It's the kind of developmental again. So, yeah, although I like the idea, I think it would take another year. And I think Reigns has had it enough. But at the same time, who does do it? Do you know what I mean? If this goes on to Mania with Brock, I don't want it to be Brock. Brock arguably shouldn't have done one of these things like this already with Undertaker. So, we're going to quickly get to another comment here as well. But again, once again, thank you, Mythic, and those in the comments. King Rail here. Who do you guys think Shane starts a Mania deal with? I think it's Vince's new pet. So get into this. We'll get to a bit more like who's showing up in the Rumble and things like that. But there's a lot of rumors that Shane McMahon's going to be in it. I guess this would be, we'll touch on a little bit of that here then. So I guess he would kind of annoy someone in the Rumble or throw someone out in the Rumble. That's maybe, if it's going to be someone like that, ironically, he's gone, but we've already said we think he might come back, is Braun. He had the last storyline with Braun. Yeah. It feels like that kind of character, Braun, Undertaker, American, but like the Maven Undertaker thing. Like it feels like Shane, I think it'd have to be a heel. I think Shane would probably have to be a babyface because he'd come back with a pop. Here we go. Mythic's come back with a suggestion though. Omos. Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't say.
You went Strowman.
I wouldn't say it's the most exciting, Lou Fez type wrestling match. But it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you see these matches. I think Shane's great for what he does. He's, he's a spot guy. He's exciting. His car crash, it's exciting. You put him in the right person that can kind of get him through, like Kurt Angle did at King of the Ring all those years ago. Even the Undertaker in the Cell match, he's great. Omos as well, good, but like still very, very new. Works a certain style, needs a certain wrestler. Putting them two together, how much can they gel? But then you say that, as much as Shane, we can say, oh, Shane's a part-timer. He's still been around the business for his entire life. He's still, when you even talk about wrestling, he's still wrestled for 20 years. 23 years now, I think. 99 is probably when he first started getting in the ring, around then. So even though it's been kind of sporadic, I'm sure he knows what he's doing. So yeah, maybe you could trust Shane and Omos to go at WrestleMania. Who knows? That's a good shout, actually.
I don't know. I think he'd want to. I think he'll be thinking, with respect, you know, time again. Father Time is, you know, ticking away from him too.
Yeah. So you think it's a bucket list for Shane?
Now. And I think he's aware that there's only so many of his extreme mad bumps he can do. And I think he will. The best option for someone like Shane now will be to work with a safe pair of hands in there. And I think you can't really get much safer than the person I'll suggest for him to face would be Randy Orton. I think
Shane and Randy Orton, yeah.
I think you know, they've just lost the tag belts as well, haven't they? Him and Riddle.
Yeah.
There could be some fun stuff that could happen because Shane's very entertaining. He's very good with segments and stuff. So I think it could be some entertaining segments. And obviously, as we know, when Randy Orton wants to turn it on, and you know, if you do want a villain, you know, I think you can't really look. You know, someone like Randy Orton is able to do that stuff really well. And I don't know if they wanted to go down the family route with it too, like could obviously Shane's wife potentially being, you know, around the business. I know his kids are a bit young, but you know, it's Randy Orton. He will show up at the kid's house.
Cool, I KO anyone, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, another weird one, actually saying that, I just thought of the house thing because it's something he kept doing when he was in every feud. But if he was to come back again for the umpteenth time, Samoa Joe. You know, he's someone who I think if you're going to go down the route of Shane being the babyface, the villain has to be the most serious thing you've got going.
Because, big, bad, scary, yeah.
You know, scary. And you got, you know, someone like Samoa Joe who, you know, it still angers me, obviously, everything that happened around WrestleMania weekend last year. You know, and obviously he's returned and it going so well, and then it not going so well, and then being released again. It's like you've got someone here. This is what infuriates fans so much, I think, is when they have the option, the answer, sitting on their roster somewhere, and they just won't see it, and then they release them. You know, like last year, you know, Drew McIntyre, I spoke at the time, and I said Drew McIntyre needed to work with someone who was going to be an absolute animal to him. He needed that villain to get him over, to get him that sympathy again from the fans, and to have a program that wasn't in the WWE Championship picture, which obviously he was in for a long time. Obviously, it feels like a long time ago now, doesn't it? Really, we're talking about this. But there was a period where Drew McIntyre was in every single WWE Championship match for over a year, and it was getting stale because, you know, that's just how things work in this business. And so he needed someone after WrestleMania, like a Samoa Joe, someone who, you know, is able to be like the most legitimate person on your roster at the click of a button. And they released him. And then they brought him back, obviously as part of, you know, Regal's thing on NXT, and he was champion.
And he got injured,
had to relinquish the title, and now he's released again.
Gone again, yeah.
And yeah, like I think, but if Shane's going to wrestle again, when he wrestled again, I do think it might be his last time as well, is what I'm thinking.
So like a retire. Does someone who's a sporadic wrestler have a retirement match as well? That's a bit, you know, would they announce it is what I mean? It'd be odd.
They would. Like, I think they think, you know, in Vince's head, like it does seem that he thinks that Shane's obviously a big attraction. There's several stories that went on at WrestleMania 32 and he faced Undertaker, saying that, you know, Vince McMahon was, you know, kind of thankful for that match for selling tickets, and obviously attribute a lot of that to Shane's return, obviously, in getting the interest on that match. But then the other person was Undertaker, who kind of was a big deal at WrestleMania, you know, just a little bit. He was someone who kind of people wanted to see a little bit.
Hell in a Cell didn't do bad either.
But like, I think end of the day, you know, like Vince obviously would hold his own high esteem, and I think, you know, you'd argue with Shane it's kind of warranted though. Like, I think, you know, everything that Shane kind of been involved with, on the most part, he's been entertaining, if nothing else, if that makes sense, you know. And he has improved in the ring quite a lot. Like his match he had with AJ Styles a few years ago, like where he kind of did like a few different things, and it was more wrestling-y based. That was very good. But as we know, the Shane we know and love is a Shane that wants to put himself through announce tables, and do the coast to coast and jump off the Hell in a Cell, which, you know, that's a shame that we most likely will get. But
like you say, Father Time's going to catch up with you at some point. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe someone like that does need to go out with a bang rather than and make it known, you know.
Or hear me out on this.
Okay.
There's another guy in the Rumble this year He's a little bit famous for doing stunts. A little bit famous for putting his body through hell. A little bit famous for also, sadly, Father Time catching up on him, making me feel like the oldest person going. Johnny Knoxville. He's in the
Johnny Knoxville versus Shane McMahon. I feel like I've just woken up in 2001. Right, okay. With that, I'm going to quickly jump into some more comments here. Mythic again. Shane versus Vince, which we've had at Mania, obviously. Right to WWE on a pole match. I can kind of see something like that. And Eddie with we'll talk about this stuff later on a bit more. But Randy Orton winning the Rumble and challenge Lesnar at WrestleMania would be nice. I mean, that's completely out of left field. I would not put those two guys together, but when you think about it, that's a feud, isn't it?
It is. Have they really had it?
And they were the two youngest. There's a story there. The two youngest guys, you know, like around the same sort of time period as well. Because, you know, Randy beat Brock's record there anyway, you know, about what, 2 hours? 2 hours? That'd be quick. 2 years later. Yeah, I like that idea. I mean, it's weird. I wouldn't book it, but if you gave it to me and it was executed well, I'm sure I'd enjoy it. So, that's a good one. Okay, what we'll do now then, we're going to move into the next match that we've predicted, but we're just going to kind of update. Again, we cannot change our predictions, guys. They are locked in, but we sometimes want to torture ourselves and run through it just in case. Speaking of man, we just talking about though, Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship getting challenged by, now this, talk about a dream match, Bobby Lashley. Finally, we are seeing this match. Unbelievable. It's another wrestler that we got to interview recently, actually, and we actually talked about this, so check that out as well. And at this time, when we did this interview, this match wasn't happening, and we were talking about why Bobby Lashley thought it wasn't happening and why he basically said Brock had been dodging him. So go check that out. It's quite interesting. We also talk about the Hurt Business, why it was so important to him and that portion of his career. And his first WWE run and how it's different to the current one he's been on. But yeah, this match, Lucas, I think, I'm guessing we went quite similar in this one. Let's have a look. Okay, no, we were split. So for the first time,
that's good.
You, Rob and Dan went for Lesnar, and I actually went for Bobby Lashley. Okay, so I went for Lashley. I'm trying to get myself in that mind frame now. I think I was going on, okay, that was it. I assumed that Reigns or some sort of shenanigans because of Reigns will cost Lesnar the title. Lesnar will then go after Reigns, possibly in the Rumble. We'll get to that later on. Yeah. But either way, I think that would happen. And you mentioned it earlier on, it could be flipped. And I was going to mention it, but I forgot actually. But that idea of Reigns going through the Rumble, although I'm like, taking the title off him doesn't make sense. It makes more sense for Lesnar because it wasn't a planned title run, blah, 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 because day one and all that weirdness. The image of Reigns in the Rumble tearing through people is up there with him holding the title for a long time. They could always kind of rely on that and still he's not going to look weak now, is he? So, but that's if they go elsewhere with Seth. Maybe Seth is the champ, maybe Owens goes after him, and again we'll get into a bit of that in the Rumble. But there's a lot of possibilities here, but generally speaking, I do think that even if Brock doesn't go into the Rumble, I think Brock is likely to lose it because I don't think he was supposed to win it. And that goes on in that direction so that Brock can go back into the Reigns direction. You guys all disagreed with me. You all went with Reigns keeping it. Sorry, with Brock keeping it. But I remember you saying part of that is because you thought you could lose it at the Chamber. So what are you thinking now?
Obviously, the rumour mill has been swirling for this one a lot about the Brock doing this. Obviously, Brock has previously won the Rumble. And it's interesting that the past few years, over the past decade or so, they have picked a lot of two-time winners now. We've had, obviously, Randy Orton, Triple H, John Cena, all win their second respective matches in the past decade. So it's not kind of without Batista too, sorry.
Blue Tista. Was that Blue Tista when he was all blue?
Blue Tista, way back in 2014. So, it's not without, previous here. But again, another stat here. The last time the WWE Championship changed hands at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view was in 2016, and technically that was a Royal Rumble match itself that Triple H won. Before that, you have to go back to 2013 when The Rock obviously defeated CM Punk to win the WWE Championship.
That's a long time ago.
So it's not a pay-per-view where these title changes happen. Obviously, obviously it makes sense. I guess they've got the big attraction where it's the Rumble match, but it's not a pay-per-view where this happens quite often.
I mean, surely as the world title changed in between then, it must have. I mean, obviously having 2 titles, but
the Universal Championship hasn't changed hands at all at the Rumble ever.
And what about the world? Because when the Universal started, 2017 was it? So there was about another 5 more. Yeah.
Oh, I mean the world. You mean the World Heavyweight Championship?
World Heavyweight.
You'd be looking prior to 2013 anyway, wouldn't you? Because that's when it was retired.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be looking years ago at least. So it's been at least 10 years, you say.
Okay. Yeah.
So the stats on this aren't good, but again, like we are in a new kind of model of doing things, and obviously having day one. Obviously, we've never had the situation. We've had a pay-per-view twice, 2 in a month, basically. So close together. So yeah, but I don't know. I think there's loads of possibilities that can happen, but it just depends how much of the rumors about the Brock Reigns thing are true and how much is rubbish, or how much they're going to decide to not go with potentially. Because essentially Brock winning the WWE Championship could have been the original plan anyway. They could have had an angle plan for him and Roman that would have maybe led to the match even not happening, even if Roman was there.
Right, okay.
Or a false finish or something like that, or something where Brock gets added to that match anyway. So, because this is the thing, as fans, we're led to assume that that's what happened. But it could have been what was already planned, or it could have been what Vince decided 5 minutes before the show. We literally have no idea which one it is. But it will be it's an interesting match, this one, like you say. Like, it was so far away from happening at one point, wasn't it? It felt like a match we was never going to get. I mean, at one point, obviously, Brock Lesnar wasn't even part of the company. Realistically, obviously, we kind of knew he was never going to be signed to anywhere else. But he stopped his contract with WWE after WrestleMania, SummerSlam 2020, around that time, when he obviously decided not to return to the company, and he had a year out, essentially, until he returned this year, last year at SummerSlam. And, since then, obviously, the run he's on is very, very different. He's a very different Brock Lesnar now, isn't he? But yeah,
he has fun. He has fun, and he dresses funnily.
But yeah, I don't see it. I'd still take for Brock.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but what, and then goes on to Chamber and loses it there. Like, are you still thinking that,
or potentially there's rumors about. Hope it's not true. They are going to do this title unification.
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't think that is true.
Yeah. We got another comment here from Mythic though. Again, we will get into the Rumble proper in a little bit of time, but this kind of makes sense to mention here. So, watch Reigns lose. Go tear through the Rumble. Number 30, 3, 2, 1. If you smelt what the Rock is cooking out, as much as that moment of the Rock coming out in the Rumble will be absolutely incredible, it will defeat the purpose of why they would bring the Rock back, because someone out of the 2 of them, assumably, you might have someone else. Shane could throw them both out, but someone out of the 2 of them would have to win. And if Reigns has gone in there with this Brock stuff hanging over him, Rock then coming out just kind of complicates things. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like Rock, as exciting as that would be for the Rock to come back at the Rumble, it kind of would take away from what would surely be the feud, which is Rock going after Reigns, because in that one would have to win. Why would the other one then kind of feud from that?
I think maybe bring up the comment again. I think maybe there'd be a full stop in between the middle of it potentially. Oh, he said still to lose. Okay, yeah, he still wants to win the Rumble. Okay, I think if Reigns retains,
because surely exactly. Because if Reigns loses, goes in is in the Rumble. You have them much as a great moment individually, storytelling wise, it wouldn't make sense because Reigns would have to win it by throwing the Rock out, and the Rock would then go, "I won a title match," and then or the Rock would have to win it, and then Reigns would have to go, "I won a title match." Like, it wouldn't really make sense. I mean, they could do it. Don't get me wrong, but
I mean, if the Rock is in the Royal Rumble match, that will be the loudest reaction that there has ever been. Ever.
Well, I think here's the thing, right? And again, we will get into Royal Rumble talk in general, but Edge, right? And we were talking earlier about how the last Rumble with fans was that one. And I watched the highlights and I still find myself getting a bit emotional, man, because I was saying yesterday, I was watching some of the highlights yesterday, I was saying, you know what? This return was the reason why it was so good in the Rumble is because it told us Edge can compete. Like instantly you knew Edge was fit. Whereas if he came out, which he had done before, he'd come out and speared people and whatever, you'd go, oh, Edge is back. Cool. And then he goes, I can wrestle again. Like, you know, Daniel Bryan did, you know. But to bring him back in the Rumble instantly told us, this is why that one, looking back on it, was so exciting. Instantly told us he is, you know, he's fit and able to wrestle, which was so exciting. So I think he'd have a hard time topping that, but a Rock return is always, it's always up there.
Yeah, I think especially in the Rumble, you know, this year.
Because I guess it would be similar. It would tell us he's back for a bit at least, you know, so.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, The Rock, obviously for a lot of people, is just that wrestler that, you know, he's just larger than the business, isn't he? And you know, he's obviously eclipsed every kind of dream that isn't ever imaginable, you know, for anyone really as a human being. But I mean, I always remember him when he was the guest host, him returning at WrestleMania, and he was announced the guest host, and they kept that a secret. And it feels in that weird kind of period where obviously social media was, you know, only starting to get as big as it was going to get, and you know,
because he launched his Twitter that night, didn't he?
Yeah, so, absolutely. I think it ended like social media that day, didn't it? Like, everything just blew up because it was such a big kind of moment, and obviously the Rock's obviously had a lot of these big moments, but then it's a case of, you know, do you use the Rumble to do this, you know, and like of all the other opportunities? But the answer is it just depends what has happened. Like if the Rock is, you know, you have to imagine the Rock is one of those people that's not really easy to kind of pinpoint dates down with at the moment. And if it is a case that he's free some time, then yeah, like he is the right pick. But that's something we get to. Well, yeah, but I don't know whether that is the direction that they're going on. I think this could be a way to do it, but
it does feel like that'll happen eventually. Whether or not it's this year, I don't think it's this year. But then at the same time, like it feels inevitable. But Austin having a return match felt inevitable at some point. The Hogan rumors, the Punk rumors, then eventually it just didn't happen. We'll get to some comments though. You know the deal. Says Paul Heyman is totally going to swerve and turn on Brock to prove himself to the head of the table. That's exactly what I think is happening here as well. I do think it'll be Paul Heyman related, or it could just be simply the Usos, but I think it's most likely going to be Heyman. I think it makes sense storyline wise. Mythic prediction says if Judas hits at number 30 with a clip all pops behind. I wouldn't say all, but I think it would be great. I think it would be cool. But surely if he comes back, it's break the walls down. As much as the Judas thing is amazing, it's a non-WWE thing. He might push for that. I reckon he could push for that if he does. But I'd like to hear break the wall. Like for me, Judas is another thing. It's great in AEW, but WWE, and I'm sure people would sing it and know it. But for me, I want to see WWE Chris Jericho when he's in WWE in that sense. Carrying on with the comments though, and please keep them coming in. Really do appreciate it. Gangrel is going to make a surprise appearance to help Edge win. Return of the Brood, make another tag team run. That would be cool. There was a lot of rumors about Gangrel possibly coming back. Well, he was going to be involved with AEW. So he says on his podcast, and then this Brood thing happened, and it kind of looked like, we're copying WWE, so they kind of decided to go against it. Very unfortunate for the guy, because I think it would have been a cool moment for him to go to AEW for a bit. Excuse me. But I don't see them being a tag team. No. But you know the deal is fantasy booking already with the Brood versus RKO at Mania. I talked about playing in a video game earlier. That feels exactly like a video game match right there. Just a random WrestleMania match. Hey, I'm not knocking it. Again, I love everyone involved. I think it'd be exciting. And I do really enjoy Edge doing all this Brood stuff at the moment as well. And, you know, I like the fact that when he does his Brood entrance, he also gives you the rated R superstar entrance straight after. It's a nice way to do it, doing both. Hey, the bloodbath being a Brood bath in all black and crap is stupid, but hey, at least we can hear that cool theme song again and him coming up with the flames. That's I'm all for that at least. Right, I think we're done with the kind of non-Rumble matches. I think it's time to actually talk the Rumble. We've had a lot of comments about the men's one, hardly any about the women. So which way would you like to do this, Lucas? Should we go straight into the women's to even it out, or do we go with the men's to kind of, because people seem to be wanting to talk about that?
Well, let's go for the men's, but comment people, get talking about the women, so we can get some content of the women's matches. I personally think actually that's the one which is really, really open. They're both very open. Don't get me wrong, but I think that's the one where I think it's really, really open because the Forbidden Door has been opened in that match, and there's Hall of Famers. There's lots to discuss in that, and as we know, the Women's Rumble, like they've been very strong matches. So, comment section. Let's obviously we know we're excited about everything that's going on, but let's get talking about that Rumble match. So we will do the men's one first, and the ladies, I guess, the last spot. Because I think that might
go, yeah, it might do. Yeah, depends. It always depends what they put. So I love this, and even on regular pay-per-views, we go, "Why is this match on now? What does this mean? What does that mean?
Yeah.
This must mean something's happening later." And sometimes you get disappointed by it, but give me Curry saying or give me death. Oh my god. Oh no, Mythic, I think you might be having a tough night. You never know, maybe she shows up. But again, thank you for the comments, and we will get to women's stuff later on. We are now going to talk about the men's Royal Rumble. As you can see from the graphic, a lot of men involved in this match, 30 of them to be precise about that. And just going on with what we've already predicted in our original preview and prediction. Here we go. So Dan went for Big E. Dan is not here tonight. And then me, Rob, and you, Lucas. I didn't remember it being this much, but we all went for Kevin Owens, did we?
Yeah.
Wow. I thought I was the only one that went for Kevin Owens. I forgot about that. Okay, so you wouldn't make that now. Right, let's start with that. Why were you going for Kevin Owens? Why are you not going for Kevin Owens? Let's do winners first, then we'll get into surprises and things like that later on.
I think what kind of happens is I do this every year to myself with the Rumble, where I see the list of participants, and then you kind of forget that there's going to be surprises. Not forget, but like you kind of obviously only you're limited to that list, and then the list of surprise entrants for this is so broad that when I'm deciding, I have to be like, okay, well, I don't know, I don't want to risk like Brock Lesnar because he's not announced for it, And again, like if the pay-per-view doesn't go the way that scenario happens in, and he's not even in the match, then you've kind of lost completely. Whereas if you pick someone who's at least announced, like obviously, there is that possibility where they get taken out of the match or injured or something like that, like close to the time. But at least they've been announced the match, and you can't feel too hard done by. But as the week goes on, and obviously the rumor mill, and especially I think as well because again I don't watch the weekly product. Like obviously all I have really is those kind of comments. Obviously people send to me and say, I'm shown whatever on social media of like, oh, this rumor, that person, that person, and constantly the talk recently has been this Brock Lesnar thing, and it just seemed the most plausible. As much as I kind of don't want it, but the Rumbles, like we're saying, are going in a weird direction now where. Obviously, the surprise entrants are limited now because, essentially, I hate to be, it is a sad point, this, but essentially anyone from the Attitude Era now is too old or has died. And, the next era after that, isn't the one that people know and love as much. There's only a few of them really, and most of them already really returned, like MVP, Carlito, I think Santino, people like that, already going to have those, and their pops are minor in comparison to some of the ones they could have had previously, or they work for AEW. That is all impact. Those are the people who are obviously going to get the major pops. They're working for major promotions, but yeah, I think it just depends. Is that essentially with this match? It comes down to one question really: are they using the Rumble match this year to further the feud between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar? Yes or no? If the answer to that question is yes, then one of Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar are winning the Royal Rumble match and joining the long list now of 2-time winners. Yeah, it's getting longer and longer with every Rumble, it seems, because people just keep winning them. And again, you have to think back to last year. Edge won. He won previously in 2009.
Yeah, we weren't very happy about that last year, were we?
But then in the Women's Rumble, we did obviously get Bianca Belair, who won for the first time.
Yeah.
And obviously went on and had an amazing year last year, despite somewhat getting a bit stale towards the end of the year, I think. As much as she turned, I think people were getting, again, it was just the fact that, the Royal Women's Championship was just around one person for so long. And obviously her getting done by at SummerSlam, but, fans felt aggrieved. But anyway, we are where we are. But yeah, do we need another kind of 2-time winner in this? If Roman wins, he's a 2-time winner as well as Brock.
Yeah.
Or does the Rumble match not involve that feud, and then the feud is completely open, essentially, and we're picking basically opponents, I guess, for either of those two guys, for WrestleMania. And
so if it doesn't go to them, would you still stick with Owens with the rest of the field?
Yes, just
right.
though, not as kind of out in front as I thought before.
Right. So I'm kind of agreeing with you because, I mean, as soon as I said Owens, there was part of me that thought maybe I shouldn't have said Owens. But it's just that I could see it because of the year he's had, the whole re-signing. It makes sense. He's worthy, I think, of that run. He's worthy of winning the Rumble. He makes sense as a Rumble winner for me. The thing that puts me off is I don't see what feud he would go into. That's what puts me off, because I feel like it makes sense. If Rollins wins the title, which I don't see happening, it makes sense because these two guys can clash now. They were mates, now they're not mates because there's a title online. But it'd be heel versus heel, and I think Lashley's going to beat Brock, so does it go Lashley versus Owens? That doesn't make much sense. But then again, there's a chance that someone loses the title. So that's what puts me off of Owens, even though I went for him. It kind of made sense in some ways, but not in others. But it wasn't really anyone else I felt like was clear. And I think, like I mentioned earlier on, if you're watching the Rumble, sometimes you're like, these 6 people in it, I can see this happening. Then 2 people go out, 1 person comes in, and you're like, whoa, hold on. This person looks like they've been in there too long. No. And you second guess everything,
Yeah.
So
true.
I feel like there's probably going to be plenty of times tonight where I'm thinking, Owens is going to do it. But ultimately, looking back, and we can't change our predictions, I feel like maybe it wasn't the best one. But a big part of that is because of this whole Roman Reigns Brock thing. Now, I really hope they don't do it, because last year was the same. Not last year, the one with fans, last one with fans. I thought that Rumble was booked amazingly. It was different to what we'd seen. Brock just throwing people out straight away. And the fear that Brock was going to win it was immense for me. And the fact that Drew got him out and it went on to a story from that, Drew was crowned in that moment, like of getting him out, and like we got the best of both worlds. We got the dominant Brock, who you could argue should have won. He was so powerful that night, but it was only this kind of distraction from Ricochet and then Drew McIntyre, against the big bad beast, like for me, it was a perfect way to do the Rumble, considering the kind of amount of Rumbles we've had now. You really kind of got to freshen up. So it was fantastic. And that fear of him winning, but not winning, was a great kind of play on emotions. What I don't want is that to have been for nothing and he wins it this year anyway. As much as I like Brock, the Rumble for me, same as Money in the Bank, it needs to be about crowning that new person. The fact Austin won it 3 times, yes, he was over and he was massive at the time. Even that grates me. Austin won it 3 times. These double winners, and I understand every now and then it makes sense for storyline wise, but to have Brock win it and Roman, it would be really. I don't want the Rumble to be cheap, and then, as you put it, this be a gimmick to put over their storyline. Like that can be its thing on its own. And again, we felt the same way last year with Edge. Edge can be an attraction at Mania. He doesn't need to be Rumble winner, and I feel the same way here. But the key thing last year and in the recent years is it feels like they also think, but we can get away with it because we can give them the nice one in the other Rumble, which they did last year, Bianca Belair. So maybe, again, they'll sacrifice this Rumble as far as storyline-wise. I'm sure it'll still be an exciting, entertaining event, but they might sacrifice what it means for the future because they go, the women's one's the fan-pleasing one, or the futuristic kind of, we're pushing this person one. And the men's one becomes a kind of, it's to serve another purpose, which I really hope is not, but I am starting to fear it is.
So just I'm going to go through the people that have been announced this week, and a couple of interesting things that I found out just from who's been officially announced by WWE.com.
Okay.
At the moment, 25 spots for the men have been filled.
Wow, that's more than I thought.
Yeah, so there's 5 spots left to be filled, 16 of which are Raw superstars. Which I find quite interesting. Yeah. Obviously, you'd think there'd be a 50-50 split, and obviously with Johnny Knoxville obviously not being assigned to a brand, there's obviously you'd think that to be less. But 6 in a Raw, and then 1 is obviously unassigned, being Johnny Knoxville, and the rest of SmackDown. What's interesting is more Raw superstars were announced this week like really like a lot of them were announced this week. So this week, joining the field, we had Omos, Randy Orton, Riddle, Chad Gable, Otis, Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode. And then from SmackDown, Shinsuke Nakamura, Rick Boogs, and Ricochet were all announced. So
not a single winner, but yeah.
Now, I think, it's time to talk dark horses here.
Okay.
And
we'll get to comments in a bit, guys, as well. Please keep sending them in. We will get to those in a minute.
And obviously, don't forget to subscribe. Of course, join for the review tomorrow. Very important. We're going to dissect all this stuff, obviously, even more. But there's a couple of dark horses, I think, have been announced.
Go on.
One of which I think is Omos. I think if they wanted to crown someone new, he's the one to do it. But then they have that weird stat where like big guys don't win Rumbles.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays, to break it with someone like that would be a statement. But I think you got to think future plan and like
depends who's the WWE champion, I guess, isn't it?
He's not quite there, is he? I mean, I think the Shane McMahon feud makes a lot more sense. Like we were kind of touching on earlier. But yeah, okay, I can see what you're saying as far as dark horse, though.
Or because Vince McMahon's finally acknowledged that he has an Intercontinental Champion, does Shinsuke Nakamura finally get his kind of ultimate payback, I guess, and win the Rumble match as the Intercontinental Champion? So he's forced into having to have a match on premium live event while holding that championship.
Well, yeah, but saying that, look what happened last time he won the Rumble. Didn't go that well anyway, did it? So yeah.
But yeah, there's no one who I feel has been. There's no one I feel has been announced really, who, really does it for me in a weird way.
That's what scares me because it's not usually a surprise, but a surprise in the sense of they're on the roster, and it being Brock or Reigns does feel very, very likely at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know what the comments are saying about this. I guess you've got loads.
Yeah, so let's get into a few comments. So, firstly, Mythic Predictions. Once again, thank you for all your comments. Styles needs to win. That's a good shout. I think Styles would be good. He's got a history of the Rumble. Famously debuted at Rumble. Next year was the WWE champ at the Rumble. So that would be cool. I don't think part of me was I nearly picked him in the predictions last week, but then I thought, you know what? It's that age thing that you keep hearing them talk about, like that they're going to be looking to the future. It's like,
but then you could argue, in his 40s.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just, I don't know. But AJ's been clearly booked as a kind of background figure, helping Omos, helping the younger guys.
Yeah.
So the reward, just like we're saying, Owens could be rewarded, would be the Rumble. And I think that would be cool. I'd love it. I'd love to see that. Because although he is a kind of, he's been around for a while, it's still fresh and it's still exciting. It would boost him back into like, oh my goodness, he's back in the title picture. Even that would be exciting.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm generally always excited to see AJ Styles wrestle. Always have been. Yeah. Even though I was never like a massive TNA fan, or then obviously Impact fan, like he was the guy who you knew wrestled there. You knew nothing else about TNA. You knew they had AJ Styles. It was
he was the top dog, yeah.
And it's one of those things where you just realize this guy like got himself to the level he's at and has just got better. With each year that's passed, each character. And he's a guy who can do it all. He can do every single thing that is involved in a wrestling match he can do. And does it bloody well. It's criminal thinking when you watch him, thinking of how talented he is. And the fact that obviously, potentially it's the last few years we're going to be seeing him. In the wrestling ring, he's made it very clear that he is going to be kind of looking to get out of this, very soon. I think he's aware that obviously, he has probably peaked, and I know he didn't want to wrestle too far past that peak, and I respect that, to be fair. Like, I respect the fact that, he doesn't want to be the kind of 50, 60-year-old guy they're dragging out, in a bingo hall in 10 years' time or something.
Yeah.
Again, no disrespect to guys who decide to do that. Like, that's some of them, that's what they have to do, I guess, pay bills. But I think people like now, like AJ Styles, like he doesn't need to, if he wants to retire in a couple of years in his mid-40s, like, he will do. But it would be a stretch, I think. Like, I guess there is a lot they could put story-wise going for him if he was to win the Rumble, I think. With obviously it linking to his debut, obviously they do want to play in this whole like this is my last kind of rodeo, my last kind of shot.
My last shot. He could retire at Mania, do you know, or leave at Mania. Do you know what I mean? It could be a good storyline in that sense. Like you say, it's full circle. He wins it. He doesn't have to win the title. It could be like I win or I leave, you know, that kind of thing. So I could even see that. But do they really want to put the Rumble on someone that is leaving? Because he's going to show up somewhere else. Like, let's not deny that. You know, surely he'd show up somewhere else. So, yeah. Interesting pick, though. Interesting pick. Should we move on to some more comments?
Yeah, let's go.
Right, so you know the deal says Taker will be in attendance for his wife. Imagine his theme drops and he enters the Rumble. So we did mention some of this on the he looks his head shaking. We did mention this on the preview predictions. It got mentioned there as well. I really hope it doesn't happen. Now, if you want to see us, and I mentioned this all the time, if you want to see us really go in depth on what we think about The Undertaker's career, character, and the way it ended, then please check out on the main Rebellious Noise channel. So before we split into our individual channels for wrestling, food, drink, and film and TV and stuff like that, we've got a lot of Rebellious Noise channels. Check them all out. But we've got our main channel as well. And originally on there, we did our wrestling podcast. If you check out Survivor Series 2020 pod, there was a 30-minute part where we are talking about just The Undertaker. If you don't want to skip to that, check out our Facebook and go to our videos there, facebook.com/RebNoise, RebNoise. So check that out. And we really go into depth on, just to give you a bit of a background to what I'm about to say, basically. And why we think it was handled poorly at Survivor Series and why we think you shouldn't come back and what we think you should do. Now, I will echo some of the things I said there where I say, fantastic, can't deny I'd love to see it. But at the same time, they should have never got rid of it, said it was the final goodbye, farewell, retirement, whatever the crap they named it. And Paulie did it in front of no fans. They should have kept the door open that you can always come in and chokeslam and tombstone people, you know? And for me, I'd like to see more, speaking of AJ Styles, more of those kind of ways to prolong that side of it by not having a match, but doing boneyard matches and things like that. Those cinematic things would have been great. If that's not going to happen, that's fine. That's fair enough. But let's not pretend he isn't going to come and chokeslam someone at WrestleMania every now and then like Austin and Foley and Michaels do, you know? So for me, don't put him in a Rumble. Have him come out and be sporadic. It goes against what they already said, but I think there's a good middle ground. Just bringing back the chokeslam people every now and then. Like, again, even Hogan, Muhammad Hassan with Hogan coming out. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. I'm willing to see that with The Undertaker. I don't want to see him in the Rumble match. What about you, Lucas? I imagine you're on my side there.
I think, you know, my message to Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard and all the good people that work for WWE and run that company, if for whatever reason, Mark Calloway, The Undertaker, happens to be in the vicinity of a pair of wrestling boots, you just go up to them, you take the boots away from him, burn the boots, lock him out of the venue, bury him, take him to the airport in the coffin, fly him to another state completely, and don't ever mention it. Like, he never ever needs to be in that situation again. You know, we watched the Last Ride documentary, fantastic documentary, by the way, and we've seen the pain that man put his body through for years for us. And we've seen, like, pleas from his wife, you know, pleas from, you know, doctors, etc., and how he's tried to work his way around having hip surgery to, like, come back and try and prolong it. Like, it's not going to happen. You know, he's chasing something which is impossible. You know, if it was just he wants to have just one more match, like, that's fine. If that was just it, but it's not. I mean,
you could argue that
he wants to have that, you know, in his head
moment.
His head is telling him that he can wrestle like he did 10 years ago against Shawn Michaels, that he can have that WrestleMania 25 match again, but his body will not let him. It's too far gone, and we're at that stage now where, you know, you can't just suggest these things, in my opinion. And it's just, it's selfish from the fans to kind of want to suggest that, because you're only going to leave yourself be disappointed, in my opinion.
I think what makes it more unique, this situation, is his character. Because I think if you look at, you could argue that coming in, a few punches, kicks, choke slams, you could do that in the Rumble. That, you know, it doesn't have to be a Mania thing. He could be in the Rumble. But we all know that kind of like opens the door for things that it probably shouldn't. Now, if you look at another, you know, guy like remember years gone by when it used to be Piper would show up in the Rumble.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that. I like that. It was like, because there's not the mystique around Piper. It was like Piper's like it fit his character. He was like, I'm gonna give it one more go. You know, like that. I like that. You know, like his character would chase the moment. The Undertaker character wouldn't chase it. The man would, and I completely understand and sympathize with that. As a fan, I'd love to see nothing more than the Undertaker to be the Undertaker again. In another scenario, like not, you know, it's not realistic. And again, so you could argue, yeah, the Rumble is the perfect opportunity to do this, but it doesn't work with the character, and all we've kind of just, you know, talked about it before. Yeah, it doesn't quite work for me either. Right, we're jumping to a few more comments here. Mythic again. Personally, I think the whole Forbidden Door thing has been completely blown out of proportion on the men's side. I'll quickly get to a few more before we jump back in. Biggest Rumble fear, Goldberg. That's a good point. We ain't seen him for a while. It's been a bit too quiet, so that's sick emoji indeed. I am a bit scared.
Scary for whoever's the world champion.
Yeah. AJ Styles by far the GOAT. I mean, he's definitely up there. What about Triple H? Another man that's been quiet, but obviously we've had the health scare of him recently, so maybe wouldn't be that likely. But then again, look how he came back in 2002. So if a man like that could do scarier returns like that, so exactly. Oh yeah, mate, one of the best. I know we're going off topic here, but the MSG moment, one of my favorite moments in wrestling.
That was a big pop.
At all. That is probably my favorite pop ever. That one.
That was a really big pop.
Yeah, maybe Rock coming back, as we mentioned earlier, but that one, awful.
Yeah, I think so yeah, a few things there. AJ Styles, fantastic. We've touched on that enough today. You know, much I'd love to talk about it more. Triple H. So he's in that weird situation, I guess, where, you know, it must be very difficult, this, because I guess these are inner conversations that he's having with himself, and I guess obviously being tied with my man family, he's having with them too. Does he do one more thing, or does he not do one more thing? And there's pros and cons to not or doing those one more things, you know, as we know. Because if he comes back, and with Triple H especially, because he is such a body guy, he's always been, you know, the physique, it's been everything about Triple H. It's, you know,
except for that weird 2003 period where you look back on it now, you're like, hold on a minute.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously that, you know, yeah. But I mean, in general though, like overall, the guy obviously is known obviously for being, you know, the pedigree. It meant he was the best. That, you know, he was the best.
I mean, that 2002 comeback, I remember watching that with my nan, and even my nan said, "Oh, he's got big." So, like, yeah.
You know, but even a few years ago when he faced Reigns at WrestleMania, you know, like he got himself, you know, in his 40s at the time. But yeah, like, you know, these conversations are happening. You have to imagine, and obviously, because Triple H, as we know, his role in the past kind of almost 15 years now has been obviously about the future of the company and about behind the scenes stuff, which obviously again is maybe being questioned at the moment. But it is a case of, does he do one more thing, you know? And I think he knows as each month goes by, essentially, like it is getting to it being that one more thing could be the one last thing. And you know, but I don't think it needs to happen from the Rumble, like we're saying about Edge. He's an attraction. Triple H at Mania is an attraction, and obviously, yes, without the Undertaker having a match this year, please, like, just please, don't need to see that. Without Undertaker having a match this year, and obviously with, you know, I feel, as much as obviously Brock's an attraction with the Reign stuff, like, you know, it has to be getting to that diminishing returns kind of level, because he's on WrestleMania every year. It's kind of implied now. You know, a new attraction to that, you know, is Triple H coming back again. He hasn't wrestled for a long time now. You know, he did a cinematic thing with Orton last year, I think, wasn't it? At the start of last year.
I genuinely can't tell you when the last time he was involved physically.
I think 2020 was the only year he never had an actual match at all.
Oh, really? Wow.
In the end, like 30 years.
Well, so 2021 as well, surely as well then. So.
No, he had that cinematic thing with Orton, didn't he? Remember when Orton had the fireball? It was a main event of Raw.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think, like what you're saying, though, it's going to happen. He will come back. Like, this isn't it for Triple H. It will happen again. Whether or not this is the time, especially because of what's going on with his health, and like you mentioned it there, talking about the future, you know, there's he might not be in the best mood at the moment when it comes to positioning the company and the things that have changed. Who knows? You know, we're all assuming here, but his baby of the black and gold has kind of changed a bit lately. Quite a lot, even behind the scenes. So
not black and gold anymore, is it?
Exactly, yes. Many colours. We'll quickly get to hold on this comment here. Here we go. How are you? What time in the UK will the Rumble start? Hello, UK fans with us all around the world, I'm sure, but UK is where we are at, and we are staying up late. The Rumble will start at 1 o'clock, as far as I know, and unless anything has changed,
12 o'clock pre-show.
12 o'clock is the pre-show, but before that, come on, Sam, stick with us here on the build-up show anyway, where we're going to continue to talk Royal Rumble and predictions for it, and keep sending in your comments, and please subscribe. But yeah, Triple H, I mean, has he ever had the surprise Rumble spot?
I guess, yeah. Both times he won it.
I mean, no. 2002 was announced.
2016 he was a surprise.
But was he he wasn't a returning surprise, is what I mean. It was a surprise in the sense I'm here, I'm winning the title, which was really weird. I hate titles being involved, and we'll get to that.
It was a surprise because Reigns, as a babyface, beat him up at the month before pay-per-view. I think it was TLC.
Yeah, but that's not
he
long,
was off television.
I mean, he's really been off for now, though, is what I mean. Has he ever been properly come back from injury type? Because he came back against Booker T at SummerSlam that year. He came back before the Rumble, but they did it at MSG on Raw. So, yeah, he's never really been that guy. I'm going to quickly get to a few comments here as well. You know the deal of thinking Pat McAfee will be doing commentary and enter the Rumble. We'll get into surprise entrance in a little bit because I know Lucas got a few more notes he wants to talk about there as well. I remember when the pre-show was at 11, the show started at midnight. Oh, the dream, mate.
We're not allowed both. We're not allowed Saturday shows and...
Yeah, exactly. We should enjoy the fact that it's Sunday tomorrow, not Monday. But yeah, go on, Lucas. Have you got any more to say on that?
Yeah, so basically, the point, obviously, Triple H's last match was against Randy Orton. We've lost two against Randy Orton, technically. Last year, he faced Randy Orton, that cinematic match. And that Super Showdown way back in June 2019, the same Super Showdown where Undertaker and Goldberg went down. He lost to Randy Orton after beating, obviously, Batista at WrestleMania 35. So it's been a long stretch. Like I said, 2020 was the first year he did not wrestle a single match.
Wow. But you weren't coming out there in front of those screens.
But yeah, he didn't wrestle a single match. Not been on WrestleMania now, for 2 editions. So, it is uncharted territory when you think that Triple H was the WrestleMania guy, wasn't he? In the 2000s for a long period. He was pretty much in every single World Championship match for a long time. But yeah, surprises. I think that might be something we should get into.
Yeah. Well, I quickly get to a comment as we do because the deal says WWE needs to push NXT stars given the Rumble moments. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's over. But if anyone, like I say, Bron Breakker, and we kind of touched on that a little earlier on, I think that time is past. They did that for a bit. They missed out on that sometimes when they could have done it better and more. But we did have a few, Gargano and stuff like that. So, but let's
one
get
that
into...
was really underrated, actually. Was when Bo Dallas eliminated Wade Barrett, and they didn't
love a bit of Bo Dallas.
This one. And the thing is, I'm a big Bo Dallas fan, but
me too. Yeah. Got a Bo leave, mate. Got a Bo leave.
It was still a really, really good moment. I don't think they gave enough credit to at the time, because that's when NXT was in its really, really raw stages. Obviously, what it would become as the then black and gold brand. Yeah. And it was really, I think it was really underrated personally. Just like Bo Dallas.
I was gonna say, just like the man himself. Right, we'll get into Forbidden Door stuff as well, definitely. But please. I don't know if I'm gonna say enough pleases there, so I'm gonna give it up. But you see, there's a lot of pleases there from Mythic. Give me Jay White or Okada. Now, I agree, Mythic. I would love to see both those things. And I'm 99.9% sure we will not see either of those things, sadly. Now, this Forbidden Door thing, and we mentioned it on our predictions and preview. I'd love to be proved wrong. There's still a chance. WWE have shocked me in the past. And they've shocked me with the Mickey James stuff, which we'll get onto later on. But Forbidden Door stuff, I think it is more likely to be in the women's stuff. But if it's anyone, as we said on our prediction show, it's more likely to be, I think, an ex-WWE guy. And with that, if it's AEW, for me, the only one it would be Chris Jericho. The only one. Just like he did. I was shocked the time he showed up he'd been in New Japan and he showed up. I was like, whoa, what is Jericho doing here? And again, break the walls down, rather than do this. Fine. If it's anyone in AEW, it's Jericho. I don't think it's AEW. If they do any other company, Impact, the biggest thing is Moose because he's the big kind of star. I don't see them putting over Moose. Unless you're bringing someone in new that's never been in the company, is to keep them in the company. I like the idea. There's been a lot of rumors of like the Rumble's just going to be exciting that people can show up. They don't have to sign, whatever. And that's where people like Jay White and Okada come in. But I think if it's Jay White, and there was a lot of rumors about Jay White last year, fantastic performer, you need to sign him. If it's Okada, I don't see Okada being signed by WWE. No. So I could see them getting I wouldn't say cheap pop, but the opportunity to have one day had Okada in the company. We can show this great highlight. He goes off and does AEW because he's not quite for us, but we got something out of him. I could see out of the two of them, if it was a one and done, it's Okada. If it's Jay White, he's staying for me. Jumping on that, Jay's in America though.
Well, so is everyone else.
But we're not. So maybe Moose from Impact. So we've just touched on that as well. But yeah, what do you think, mate, as far as Forbidden Dawn specifically, some of the names that we've got there?
Even from AEW, actually, I can see them. I could see a handful of people from AEW. Like, I wouldn't just say it's Jericho. I think that the Rumble, the opportunity for the Rumble, like it is still quite an opportunity for some people. So I wouldn't be surprised if MJF could be that one to do it. Though I know there obviously is that thought that he might obviously end up there in the future anyway. So it could be a way of, because again, this Rumble scenario we're going into now with uncharted territory, where in order to get these pops, they're going to have to rely upon different things. Obviously, if they want to go outside the company, that is now possible, but it's a case of, yes, they might not be able to sign people, or be able to capitalize on them per se. Because obviously, someone like MJF will come, do the Rumble, have a great showing, and then just go back to AEW.
See, that's the problem. MJF feels like the kind of guy that maybe would agree to it, like you say, because he might end up there. He's kind of hinted at, which might be storyline-wise, heelish stuff anyway. But like you say, are they really going to then let him go back to AEW and be a big star there, which he is? Yeah.
It's really odd. Like, I think as well, like, I don't think it'd be anyone who's been New Japan. Like, I think, there's still, there's a bit of bad blood. Like, it always has been, but with WWE in Japan, like they have to. It must anger them that they've never really been able to be the number one there. It's the only territory they've never been able to take over, despite obviously many attempts, over the years. And I think they just won't see it. Like, how do you present anyone who's like a New Japan star in a WWE light? Like, could the commentators, like, will they speak about their previous accomplishments? Like, I don't think so. Like, I don't see that happening.
Matt Striker would.
Yeah, he'd tell you everything. Maybe he's in the Rumble. Yeah, like, I think Forbidden's Door stuff, like, I think they like Impact, but again, it's a case of like someone like Moose, like, who is he to the WWE fans?
Yeah, unless they're gonna build on like, this is Moose, he's amazing, we've just signed him. I can't see it. Yeah, because he's not exactly to the casual fan.
I've always thought Moose is very WWE though, but I'd argue they've got like Lashley, they've got Big E, that kind of big black man spot is filmed. So that sounds really random, but I think they have the big guy, like they have him. They've had multiple kind of versions of him over the years, and I think. Yeah, like it is a case of, unless he's signed a contract, then I don't see why they'd bother putting him over.
Yeah, I think that's key. Contracts is key.
Yeah, and I think to be fair, with Knoxville being in it, I think another surprise entrant could be another one of the Jackass crew / another celebrity.
Like to shock him. Well, Steve-O's on the bump today. So I could kind of see Steve-O. And again, we mentioned this on the predictions, but when he came in and really messed up, maybe they won't want to trust him, but maybe he would be like, look, I want to kind of apologize and whatever. But then there's that giving in, who's benefiting there, Steve-O or them? So who knows? But Steve-O would be good. Quickly gets to some comments again. Mythic again. Would like have to apologize on if Rainmaker hits. And also Maybe this is mine of its man, so probably no one. Well, who knows? But judging on the Rainmaker, the theme. Since you mentioned Okada, the theme song's been in my head, and I've been thinking, even if they did, would they do the coin flip and would the song hit? Would it be their own song? There's so many complications with a one-time shot. Do you know what I mean? Remember the AJ thing? It was like, who's this? Until it said the word phenomenal, and even that, it was a guy that had signed. So it's really tough to get these outsiders and nail them down. If it's a one and done, you kind of almost got to take the whole package. Has got to be there. Known music, like Jay White's got to come out to the Bullet Club theme. And is that gonna happen? Are they gonna get Jay White, not sign him, and get the rights to his music, or make up a generic song? Like, it's a lot. It's
hard, isn't it? Yeah, like I think if it's those biggish names, and it's the same handful that keep coming up, Jay White, Okada, Kenny Omega, blah blah. I think it's a case of they have to have signed them. Like, I think it would be insanity to not do that in this scenario.
Especially the big names like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously, again, like, because whatever happens, they're most likely not going to win. Not going to win if they're one and done. So are you going to allow some of them outside your company to potentially get the biggest pop of the night that you're not going to sign? But
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've got another one that kind of goes in that kind of mold of ex-WWE guy here with Big Cass. But again, I think if they are interested in Cass enough to put him in the Rumble, they're bringing him back. It's not a one and done. So for me, it would be someone like Jericho, Mark Henry, Rhino.
Big Show.
You know what I mean? Big Show. Christian, maybe not. We mentioned it before. I think Kane might be, actually. I do think Kane is going to be
he's still weirdly on the WWE contract.
Oh, really? Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, he's still under contract, yeah.
Doing some political stuff in Tennessee.
Yeah. I mean, he came back last year, and I love Kane, but he is now just the mayor. He's got a mayor body. He's got, he's
had that mayor body for a while, let's be honest. But
popcorn and kettle black here.
Yeah, we're not exactly ripped. I mean, Kane, we're not exactly Kane in '98, are we? That was a specimen of a man. But
in a nice positive way, it is a case of like, look, someone's got to tell him, just be the character, maybe at appearances, whatever. And again, maybe every now and again we'll do Legends Night, and you can come out and do a choke slam. But I think in terms of a Rumble spot now, like it's kind of cheap. But again, the other cheap ones are ones that are just agents for the company too. Like obviously got Billy. I think Billy Kidman still works there.
I'd love to see. Noble. Just hear that theme song, mate. Billy Kidman one more time.
It was a tune. It was a tune. And again, they got Rey Mysterio in there, so it could be a nice little moment. Obviously, if Kidman and Mysterio were to go at it, for the first time in probably about 15 years, I guess.
Yeah.
But
Kidman in his little jorts. his wife beat her vest.
But is Tori Wilson in the Women's Rumble?
She probably will be. I mean, she always seems to show up, don't she? I don't know if she's been announced, but
the awkward moment when they meet each other, they bump
into each other backstage. Yeah. Here's a out there kind of prediction. First Rumble winner. First Rumble with no winner. Ring collapse spot. I mean, they've done a ring collapse spot quite often. Overdone now. Yeah, but even still, what would you do? It would collapse, and they both, because of that fallout, either way, they'd restart, wouldn't they? So
yeah.
Like the Batista and John Cena thing. But
I can't remember what podcast it was, but there was discussion for there to be a draw, I think, in one of the Rumbles in the 2000s, and Vince has just been adamantly against it since obviously the year, of the Bret Hart Lex Luger co-win. I believe it was one year when they did want Cena and Batista to co-win. I think it was actually the next year when they wanted Cena and Batista to co-win.
They got the idea from that year.
As the two big baby faces. Yeah. And obviously they likened it to the Lex Luger and Bret Hart thing.
Yeah.
Where essentially you had obviously your actual proper baby face in Bret Hart, who was liked and was respected and blah blah, and the force baby face, which obviously Lex Luger, who they decided and one of the early examples of this happening, really. And it was in a different era. You got to remember, very much different era where what people saw on television, the live part of wrestling hadn't really come into it as much. Raw was still taped some weeks. There were still a lot of tape shows at the weekends. Like results took forever to come through. But Lex Luger went from a narcissist gimmick, to this kind of Hulk Hogan clone within a matter of weeks.
Lex Express and all that. Yeah, yeah.
You know, and I think in some territories, the Narcissist stuff hadn't even ended yet because obviously it was being and stuff. And then, you know, he was the Force babyface. And obviously we know what happened at WrestleMania 10. Obviously Lex Luger lost his match here. Yokozuna and Bret Hart obviously went on to win the WWF Championship. And, you know, it's still just heralded as one of the best babyfaces placed ever. And I think, but I think anyway, my point is that Vince frowned upon it and has always used that as the reason why there's always been a clear, decisive, 100% this person wins, even if they mess it up, which they have sometimes.
You got to go with it either way.
You still won the match, you know, you still won the match and whatever it is, and sometimes they've got rid of the title shot before Mania, or they've made it triple threat.
Yeah, they fixed it by throwing in Daniel Bryan. Yeah. Exactly that. I think that's what they think now. You're right. They probably think,
Daniel
you know
Bryan's another one. Sorry,
we can fix it.
Well, I think he could be in it this year. Daniel Bryan, I think that's
not... So you mentioned this on a preview as well, but I just feel like he's too big of a star in AEW. Like, maybe not this year, but it's a tough one. Daniel Bryan as well is someone that I feel like, ironically, when you said about, you know, Brett, the one people wanted, Lex, the one that was pushed, if there was ever a time to co-do it, it would have been Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan. Roman's the one you're pushing, and Daniel Bryan's the one we want. But hey, they didn't go with it. Anything else you want to mention men's Rumble before we move into the women's?
No.
Okay, let's move in straight to the women's then. And again, keep your comments coming. Let us know who you think is going to win. We'll get to him in due course, definitely. Who you think is going to win? Who you think is going to be a surprise? Now, going on this this Rumble, as it's been announced, we have guessed. Well, I say guessed. We've predicted. Is what I was going to say. Dan has said Bianca Belair is going to be a 2-time winner. She's going to be back-to-back. Me and Rob have gone for Liv Morgan. And Lucas, you went with Lita. Right. So a week has gone. Lucas, I'll let you go on that as well. Well, firstly, we'll go on Dan's pick. So Dan's pick was Belair.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be back-to-back. I don't want a second winner already, but I do think Belair getting back into the title picture is a good idea. I just feel like it's a weak thing to do. If they do that, as much as I like her, someone on the men's side needs to be exciting, fresh, and new. It can't be a double winner, can't be a Brock, can't be a Roman, anything like that. So I don't see it happening for that. What about you quickly, just on Bianca Belair's chances?
No, I think they've dropped, personally, the past kind of week or so. I think, obviously, a bigger rumour had taken over, which we're going to talk about very soon about the surprises.
Yeah, we will.
And I don't think, I'm with you. I don't think there should be a 2-time winner straight away.
Yeah, if anyone does do it, maybe her in 2 years' time. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I think if the time's right and no one else kind of feels like they deserve it, you know, like at that time, because it's straight while the iron's hot.
I guess in a way it's going to be easier for the women to do it 2 times, I guess, because again, there's only, as much as there's only ever a handful of men who could win it every year, that handful generally changes because obviously based on who is at the reigning defending WWE and Universe champions, whereas with and they can somewhat vary sometimes, but obviously as the women have shown, those belts aren't really, we know those belts aren't really going anywhere away from those 4 key women, really. So it'll be easier, but I don't think it should happen now. Who was your pick?
So my pick was Liv Morgan, and Rob went with that as well. Now our argument was, if not now, when? Which is what we've been saying for about 3 to 6 months.
Really?
Yeah, this is it though. This is it. If we don't do it now, you know what? Saying now, I'll be saying at the Chamber next month. She's got to win the Chamber, go to Mania, do the other title kind of path. But look, I'm not saying I'm the biggest Liv Morgan fan or that she's the best thing going today, as they would say in WCW. But she is good. She has improved, and fans are behind her. And I do feel like they've missed the opportunity in the past few months. And I feel like, was it because they were holding off on Rumble? And it feels ludicrous to me that they would not strike while the iron is hot. And I feel like surely it's because they had a plan. And I hope it's tonight. I hope she does win it. But and again, not so much because I'm her biggest fan or anything like that, but just because it would be a waste if they didn't. Like, I would have been happy if she won it last month, won the title last month or the month before, and then didn't win this. But because she didn't win it, I feel that she needs something to keep fans from getting bored, you know? And I think that was Rob's kind of argument for it as well a few months back when we were talking about it as well. Like, eventually, we will get bored of Liv Morgan. And don't do that. Don't do that. You messed up the Riot Squad. Don't do it with Liv as a solo competitor as well, especially when she's improved. And your pick was Lita. I mean, that is out there. That is out there. But we kind of touched on it already, but they've kind of... Why is she back was your kind of point, right?
Yeah. And not just that, but the fact obviously is obviously they spent the last kind of 2 years ruining the women's tag division and B, really the women's division overall, where they've released so many talented women, you know, from that roster that they had. And as we're going into the Rumble match tonight with 23 announced participants, 7 surprises still to come, of which 3 of them are in the WWE Hall of Fame. Another 3 of them are what they're being dubbed as legends, and one of them works for
another company.
Yeah, you know, so out of the 23, we have 8 participants who are not assigned to Raw or SmackDown. And obviously, I'm assuming that this will be one, I guess, which will be more open, I guess, to NXT wrestlers being part of it, because they are literally in the case of they need women to enter the match. You know, it's one of those things. They need women, but there is still, like I said, there's 7 spots up for grabs. Even 3, 4, even 5 of them go to NXT superstars. But the big one, and I guess it is probably time to talk about it now. The big one, the big rumor is coming out, and the big return. People, again, if you don't want to hear this potential rumor, maybe switch off now and come back in 5-10 minutes. But the big rumor going around is finally making a return to WWE tonight. It's looking like we're going to be seeing Ronda Rousey return, and this for this reason. If this does happen. And if there's not like a massive, at the end of the day, if The Rock is in the men's rumble, that is the last thing. That's the last thing that ever happens, in WWE potentially. But outside of a massive kind of return, I don't see if Ronda is in the women's rumble, the women's rumble will go on last, basically. And that's a big rumor coming out of this one. What do you think?
Right, so I'm surprised none of us said this last week when we did our predictions, because as soon as it come out as a rumor, I was like, yeah, of course. She's got to come back at some point. You know what I mean? Fans are back.
It's been so long though, isn't it?
And there's been, like she said a few things where I think it put fans against her and stuff like that. But I do think, I think she's fantastic. I really do. I think I'm looking forward to seeing her back whenever that might be. I do think she'll have another run either way. Now, I think she should come back. Now, whether or not she'd win it, and we'll get into more of these comments, and we'll get into more of these predictions as well. Quickly go now as well. Well, firstly, jumping back to the men's one, Boogeyman in the Rumble tonight. I can't see him being one of the last 5, though. If there's only 5 empty spots, can he really be one of them? Who knows? Mythic says, got to be Sasha or Ronda as far as winning.
Sasha is now announced, by the way. So,
by the way, that's weird. We'll get into a bit of that as well. But,
Sasha and Sonya Deville were both announced this week on SmackDown to being in the Rumble match. Hey, Melinda Ford.
Hey to you as well, everybody. Hey to Melinda, and thank you for watching. And
we love the interaction.
Subscribing, of course.
We love the interaction. From obviously you guys, and please keep them coming. Even talking about some of the biggest Rumble pops you can remember. What Rumble you?
Tell us your favorite moments. Yeah,
what's your favorite Rumble potentially? All that kind of things. We'll obviously read as many comments as we possibly can out. But this Rumble was stats, really, isn't it? With kind of non-assigned wrestlers essentially, and so the odds are that there was a very good strong chance that someone who is not a regularly contracted performer, a term that I've now just dubbed,
it's up there with PLE.
regularly contracted performer. I really like that.
And it'd be a non-regularly.
Exactly.
As you said,
could win this. And again, something which obviously a pet peeve of mine, which obviously addressed itself obviously recently, when obviously WWE, they have terms for their wrestlers, for their people essentially, and people need to understand that WWE have always done this, and it's WWE's decision and what they do. but it shouldn't be reflected badly on the person that it's aimed at. So when Summer Rae was obviously on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago, she's referred to as a WWE legend. This obviously got a lot of people's backs up, and some abuse was sent obviously about Summer Rae. And look, we can probably accept that Summer Rae is not a Trish Stratus, she's not a Lita, she's not a Michelle McCall or whatever, all those kind of names. But at the end of the day, she has been part of the company previously.
She used to work there.
Yeah, she used to work there.
But she's put in her Twitter. I first saw it in her Twitter and I thought, all right, love. That's a bit of a bold claim. I didn't realize WWE had been saying it. So I assume she's put it there since WWE said it. And fair play, man. Like, if I was working somewhere and they call me a legend, I'd put that in my job description as well. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I enjoyed Summer Rae. I didn't think she was bad. I thought she had some good feuds, good moments.
I mean, sadly, she was never presented as a wrestler, really, was she? Out of all the,
she had that feud with Lana.
Yeah,
her and Fandango.
Who was best known for her wrestling ability, but I think end of the day, though, it's a term that WWE used. It's not the performer's fault. Is what I'm getting at. Like they use all these weird terms all the time. Like, we're the WWE, to them, we're the WWE Universe. And,
we've got a universal title. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
What a lot of crap that is.
But, what I'm getting at is, fans, just be kind to the performers. Like, end of the day, it's not usually down to them, a lot of this stuff. How they get presented is down to the company. And that company is led by one man who decides that if you're a legend, you're a legend, and so on and so forth. And again, this, last year, Alicia Fox was announced as, a legend previously. So, it's always one of those things. But anyway, my point basically is that I think there's a big chance of a legend / Hall of Famer winning this year, because there's a lot of them announced, and you have to imagine that a few of the surprises will be Hall of Famer / legends / people who used to work there, like, whatever you want to describe them as. No longer regularly contracted.
No, non-regularly contracted performers.
It's getting longer by the minute.
Just rolls off the tongue, mate.
Because outside of NXT names, there's no other women. I'm trying to go through the roster just now, but there's almost no other women that they could put in this.
And they've already done that kind of like service of like, thank you for your time. It was tough when you were here. You fought and you battled. So you were part of the revolution. So we've brought you back to enjoy a Rumble because you never got to do it before. They've done that a lot already.
Yeah.
So one name that's coming up a lot. Well, firstly, I'll talk about the Ronda thing. Ronda, great. Fantastic return. Whether or not she wins it, if she comes back, I can kind of see her winning it. Going back to just returns in general, one that is getting brought up a bit is Melina. Now, I'm saying, look, I'd love to see Melina back. I always enjoy Melina, but even I can't remember. Has that happened already?
Don't think so.
I don't think so, because I feel like the first 2 years I was like, Melina. It should be Melina.
But I think she was meant to come back at one stage, but she then went to the NWA.
Maybe it was that, because and then there was a Victoria one which got delayed as well. And then was not in front of fans, which was gutting as well. Now continuing with the returns as well, we mentioned Sasha Banks. For me, this is what throws me off. They are mentioned that, like, Mickie James, in my opinion, and we said it last week, should have been a surprise. Sasha Banks should have been a surprise. It's like they are panicking. There's two ways to look at this. They're either panicking because they're thinking we need to prove that there are enough women in this because of rumors of we fired too many women, or as if it's the one match that's going to sell the PLE, do you know what I mean, or sell the network or Peacock.
There's still 7 spots left to be announced, though.
Yeah, so that's what I think. I feel like announcing them is either because they're desperate in a way to make it look like something's going on, or because they are so confident with what they've got as an actual surprise. We don't need Mickie to be a surprise. We don't need Sasha to be a surprise. We've got X, Y, and Z. Now, Ronda, I think, fits that category. Another one we've got here as well, which I mentioned on the preview. You know the deal, comes back again with another comment. Thank you very much. Return of Lacey Evans. I think it's about time. That one makes sense to me as well. And also followed that up with Asuka. She's overdue for a return.
Now, she's injured.
Yeah, but I think... Yeah, but people magically get better at Rumble season.
They do, yeah.
So I feel like, for me, Bayley, Asuka, Lacey Evans make the most sense from a current roster, and then Ronda, Melina are likely as well. And I would also say now the big rumor again, as it is every single year, is Paige. I'd love it. Again, another one from this side of the pond, you know, like back in the day when we didn't have much representation. Anytime a Brit would show up, they would feel like it was your cousin. Do you know what I mean? Like it was so exciting. And Paige was fantastic as well. She was in that great period between the Divas and Women's, Revolution. Rumors every year, I hope for it to happen. But this year, she's come out and basically acknowledged those rumors, which could be a swerve, but it could also be a kind of, it's even getting a bit boring for me type tweet, you know, which it was presented as, but maybe it's just a bit of a swerve. But I think if you are coming back after years of thinking you're coming back, don't say anything. You know, I'm on the Chris Jericho side of things of everything's a secret until I show up, you know. So I don't know. I think it's possible, but again, yeah, out of those names, who's most likely for you, and what would you like to see, I guess?
Yeah, I think Melina's likely. I think going back to your point about, I think they have done a lot of this fan service / this kind of like whole, you know, thank you before. Basically, we were idiots, and you know, the business was different, and blah blah. Here's now your Rumble moment, and they can't obviously have the same people return every year, so they have got to start.
It's still a threadbare. Even still, you compare the women's roster was always smaller than the men's, so that's why you're getting Tori Wilson nearly every year. You know, because.
And again, in the last possible way, they do want people in there that still look like they did back then. Like, you know, it is one of those where, as much as we have moved on, we haven't fully moved on, really. You know, because there's certain people that aren't going to be contacted or would never be contacted because Mother Nature, you know, just has moved on. Like, something like Jazz, for instance. You know,
Jazz. Well, she's officially retired. Yeah, Jazz, OG Tori. Like the original Tori with an I. Ivory, I'd love to see. And
years ago, wouldn't she?
Yeah, and who was the other one I was going to say as well? Jacqueline. Yeah, Jacqueline as well.
Yeah.
Those kind of names.
We have to rule out people like Sable. I mean, like she's never gonna. Or
you never know, man. Broke might convince her. You know, so Tori Wilson every year isn't a bad thing. Hey. Next up, Jimmy Monster. How the guys doing today? How are we doing? I think we're doing good. Jimmy, thank you very much for joining us. And please subscribe, check out more of our content and all that kind of cliche stuff. But everyone that's here, thank you very much for joining us. But what about Paige then for you, mate?
I would like to see it, and I think, you know, it's again that Britishness in us. We want it to happen, but from kind of what she said, you know, about several things, like again, you know, what part was she working us on? But you know, she has said, I think as recently as like last year, that essentially everything with her, you know, she's been, you know, the doctors have said no. You know, everything would lean to no, and that was as recent as last year. And I think, you know, again, you know, it's amazing what they can do nowadays.
Yeah.
But I do kind of feel if she has kind of purposely kind of gone this route to kind of, you know, get that different opinion or whatever, and it's not true, like, I don't know, like, it's just, I think, like, if she's doing it, then I hope that she is in the best possible condition to be able to do this, you know, and that, you know, they've mitigated the risk and they're able to promise that, you know, that it doesn't happen again. Like, but it'd be a great moment, a great pop. It'd be interesting though, because again, like, she's starting now to get from that era of, you know, it's just before what we've had now. Like, is it big enough, like, for her to do anything more than just, you know, kind of maybe get to the final four or so, but obviously not win, like, you know, because, you know, the company, the women obviously have just moved on, haven't they, since then?
Yeah, you know? Like, does she carry on? Yeah, does she have a feud after it? You know,
like, is she main event level, like, potential, like, you know, for the women, like, you know? But the thing is, she could be the person. She changed the game before. You know, again, like, when you look back at that Divas division they had in the early 2010s and look at how little wrestling content was involved, then Paige came along with AJ Lee, along with Caitlyn and a few other women who don't get enough praise because their names aren't Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Bayley, etc., that came after them. But they essentially brought wrestling back into that division and said, well, fair enough, we're only at 5 minutes, 6 minutes, or whatever on a pay-per-view, as they were called back then. Back in NIDA. Oh, my God.
Don't worry, that was only 2 months ago, mate. Don't worry.
Back in our day when it was pay-per-views, they brought that content up. So, it's... I would be down for kind of returning. Who else did you mention in there? I think, one that I mentioned previously, and I mentioned just now actually, was Caitlyn. Caitlyn and Eve.
Well, she came back for a little bit though. Caitlyn came back for a bit.
Was it Women's Classic or something?
Something like that. But yeah, she's another one that she's clearly on good terms.
Only from a few years back.
Yeah, I think I really liked her as well. Who's the one you just said? Eve Torres as well. Another one that stood out in that period as well. Was really good. WWE, here we go, have tweeted a picture of Bad Bunny talking to Undertaker. There was a mention earlier as well in the comments of Bad Bunny as well. But man, Bad Bunny, yeah, if you really need to fill up gaps, but the risk is, especially with the men's roster being so stacked compared to the women's, when you give up a space to someone like that, unannounced, it's one thing to tell us Johnny Knoxville is going to be in it. It's one thing to do Drew Carey skits all night. It's another thing to go, look what happened to Rey Mysterio, one of the most beloved wrestlers of all time, being, but it weren't Daniel Bryan, and although there's not someone like a Daniel Bryan this year that we're all kind of being like, it's got to be. I think it's still a risky move. I
guess it also depends on what match they're doing. Like I said, we go back into the men's one. We're talking about, is this match part of the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar feud or is it not? If it's not part of the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar feud and that person who comes out at number 30 is someone like a Bad Bunny, then potentially it could go okay-ish, I guess. But again, if it is number 30 in the Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns thing, essentially that's not going to have any impact on the finish, essentially, because you're not going to get.
You'll know by then it's over, innit? Yeah, it'll need to be one of them two to come out of 30 to not kill that. Yeah, so
exactly. Yeah, do you know what I'm saying? But if it's the other way around, well, obviously we're getting a more of an open rumble with different challenges and stuff. I think people will be down for Bad Bunny. He can come in and do a couple of spots with the people like, I guess if they have people like Dolph Ziggler in there, he's always a good person to kind of take a good bump and get eliminated quickly by a celebrity. That's cool. And then obviously someone like Bad Bunny, if he then wants to take a stunner from Owens and get clotheslined out, that's a cool little spot he could do.
It, like you say, depends on what else is going on, doesn't it? Yeah, what kind of rumble it is.
Again, we're going way, way, way back. Someone said they were nervous about the Rumble. And it is a little bit nervous, I think, because we essentially realised that, all our excitement, all our kind of thoughts, our fancy booking, our, it could be this, could be that, it ends, and that's like Christmas almost as a kid, you build up excitement all the way to the whole month, advent calendars and seeing people, blah, blah. And then the minute you unwrap that present,
it's either over or it's either not the Xbox or it is the Xbox.
And it is that kind of thing of obviously wanting to hold on to this feeling for a long time as well, which we're nervous about, I think. Because obviously this feeling only comes once a year, do you know what I mean? Because, as of tomorrow, when we do our review, we will be talking about the men's Royal Rumble match winner and the women's Royal Rumble match winner, and most likely have some sort of direction of where we're going to go, towards obviously WrestleMania. And it's that fear, I think we have, that fear, that nerves of, it exists, it's in us. But I'm excited.
I get to a few more comments. This is a great one actually, because we've not done this at all. And that is your predictions on the first entry in both the men's and the women's Rumble. So before we mention that, what we have done though, and I forgot to mention, we've done our winners, but we've also done who we thought would be out first and who got most eliminations. So in the men's, Dan, myself and Rob said it would be Omos getting the most eliminations. Lucas, you went for Kevin Owens getting the most eliminations. The first eliminated in the men's, Dan went for Robert Roode. I went from Austin Theory because I think he's going to have something big going on, but something's going to happen Austin Theory. So I went with that. Lucas, you went for Corbin, and Rob went for Madcap Moss. Going into the women's, the most eliminations, Dan and Rob both went for Rhea Ripley. Good call there because I can see her kind of doing well. Also, kind of almost a dark horse because no one was mentioning her, but I could kind of see her winning. I went for Charlotte being dominant with the title, but not quite doing it. Someone throws her out at the end because I hate that whole title in the Rumble thing. Fine. And Lucas, you went for Shayna because Shayna is a badass. First eliminated, Dan went for Carmella because you can see it with the kind of pesky little heel. Me and Lucas, we both went for Aaliyah, and Rob went for being a newcomer, and Rob went for Natalia because it kind of makes sense, I guess, with her kind of storyline of being all up herself at the moment. So let's quickly get into, we're going to wrap up in a few minutes though, guys. With a few minutes left, but we quickly get into, before we get out here, Lucas, who would you say first entries, or 1 and 2 if you like, for the men's and for the women's? Who do you think we're going to see?
Okay,
I'm glad it hasn't been announced, by the way. I'm glad.
Firstly, I hope they don't announce it on the pre.
They might do. Yeah, they might. Yeah.
To be fair, for that reason, it's why I will be watching. I will be waiting for the match. If there is a match on the pre-show, and that's been announced at all, actually, either. But it was a hard one really this year. I think obviously they got to pick they got to pick quite a big pop. I wouldn't be surprised if number 1. Or do they do it? Because it might ruin my obviously my prediction, I guess, for the women's rumble. But do they do number 1, number 2 as Lita and Trish Stratus potentially?
Oh,
like a massive,
I can see that with a women's
massive way to start. Obviously,
yeah,
it does usually mean that obviously those people will get eliminated, obviously, before the end.
But Lita could last a long way, and then because I feel like if any one of them two is signing, it's her. So
yeah. But I think, there could be a huge kind of way. Yeah, you have to think there has to be a massive pop at the start. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, in both matches, potentially, like, there is, like, just a big name kind of starting off things. Who else? Let me have a look at the list again. Anything from you, Scott? Let me have a look at the list.
I'm going to say men's. I'm going to go, for some reason, Sheamus is in my head. So I'm going to say Sheamus. And because of that, I'm going to go storyline-wise, Cesaro. And not long after that, Sheamus's buddy, can't remember his name now, Ridge Holland is going to come out and kind of spoil the pipe for Cesaro or something like that. Or maybe they start working. Oh, I could even see that later on in the match. They start working together only for them to kind of turn on each other. But yeah, screw it. Sheamus and Cesaro. Women's, I like your idea, man. Trish and Lita. I think that's a really good, exciting way to do it. So yeah, why not?
And then particularly if it's going to be last with the potential Ronda Rousey involvement later on in the match, I think that could be a really good way to kind of get it started and to obviously keep the fans obviously really happy. Because obviously I think obviously Mickie James would be kind of much later on. As I do think she'll go quite far potentially.
She's been bigging up. I saw a promo of her on Impact the other day where she was basically saying, I'm going to go to WrestleMania and I'm going to have title versus title. Like, she's proper going for it. You know what I mean?
So bonkers. The more you think about this, though, like, watching wrestling in the 2000s, as, like we did, like, could you imagine, like, in, like, 2005, whatever, if Jeff Jarrett said, I'm going to be in the Rumble.
I'm in the Rumble. And it's going to be TNA champion versus WWE champion. Like,
And we all kind of chuckled when they tried to do the Monday Night War thing, or when Hulk Hogan got involved and blah, blah. But now it is a case of where this happens on a regular basis now. It's crazy. So men's Rumble. Rey Mysterio is always a good shout to go in early, isn't he?
Yeah.
Statistically, he won as well for number 2.
I feel like they've ruined that Rey and Dominic moment, though. It was clever what they did on SmackDown a little while ago with Rey throwing Dominic out, but they should have done that in the Rumble for me. So
yeah, same.
Quick comment here as well. Zayn and Knoxville. I think that's too big of a thing on it that it should be later on. But I can see it, I think 13 and 16 is better for them too.
Yeah, that's later on thing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't also rule out them just wanting 2 good wrestlers in at the start. So it's like an AJ and Orton potentially.
Yeah.
AJ and anyone really, to be fair. He can wrestle the phone book, couldn't he? One of those. There's an old X Factor line there. You can sing the phone book. But yeah, like I think, there's a handful of guys really, but then also they might give it to someone. They might want to give it to someone like an Austin Theory, let him go out and have a few minutes with maybe even someone like a Big E or like a Kofi Kingston, or just like a big mainstay. So it's just a case of because that's the thing of the Rumble. There's always little rubs that you can get from the Rumble in a weird way, like because again we have to think about other accomplishments in this. Who's the Iron Man in this match and the Iron Woman? The person you're gonna last the longest in the match. So that's always bigged up quite a lot. It seems like a big achievement. And again, it is a big rub. Like if you're in the ring for longer in that match, like you have to imagine that someone backstage likes you. Someone backstage said, do not eliminate this person until then.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
As weird as it is to think you could be in the match for like 50 minutes and not win, and maybe not even be in the final four, but
still be a big deal, because of it.
Still a big deal, because someone having faith in you backstage. It might not be Vince, but But yeah, there's a handful of people really. So my picks, I'll go with like Rey Mysterio or maybe Ray and Orton. Actually, that could be a good one.
I could kind of see Ray and Bobby Roode.
Yeah. I mean, they've got the tag thing, haven't they? I guess going for them.
Yeah.
And maybe Dolph could come in a little bit later. Yeah. Ray and Dolph even.
Ray and Dolph would be good.
Just two good guys to start. Like I think basically Dolph is Mr. Along with Jericho. And Shawn Michaels. There's a handful of these guys, isn't there, who are so good at this like teetering elimination and skimming the cat and kind of always dramatics we love. And Dolph Ziggler is fantastic with this stuff, isn't he?
He is, yeah. And then don't forget we got the possibility of Kofi doing something exciting, and Naomi usually does as well. So there's a lot to look forward to. But we're going to start wrapping things up now, everyone. Thank you so much for your comments. I'm going to get to a few before we get out of here. Jimmy Monster says, is it true Ronda Rousey, Sasha Banks, and Dean Ambrose coming back? We've touched on this already. If you haven't already, we're going to end the live stream now, but feel free to go back and watch it before the show starts if you want to hear us talk about these topics in full. But a little kind of sample is Rousey, likely. Sasha's already back. Ambrose, probably not, is my opinion. I assume you're the same there, Lucas. And Jimmy's followed that up with what happened to Bayley as she has lost. We didn't really mention Bayley, but I also do think she is one of the most likely to come back and therefore possibly win. But usually I think the return pop and the win are usually two different things. Okay. Maybe like Edge, where he looked like he was going to win, but it was about him coming back, really. So,
but Edge did return in the Rumble once, didn't he? In 2009, he returned in that Rumble.
He did, yeah. That was a good. Yeah, that was a good return
John Cena,
as well. Yeah,
the year before,
and of course, yeah. That's okay. Oh, mate, if I weren't excited about the Rumble before, I definitely am now. Thank you, Lucas, for joining me. We have been a Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, and thank you for everyone that's joined us in the comments as well and been watching along silently. But next time, please give us a little comment, and if you haven't, at least subscribe. That'd be lovely. But yeah, really do enjoy having you guys watch along with us. Tomorrow we will be back for the review. I was going to say predictions, but be over. We'll be predicting maybe the road to WrestleMania, but we'll be back for the review tomorrow as well. And in the meantime, we have plenty of other content on this channel to kind of tide you over with interviews with WWE superstars and other things of the sort as well. So we will see you guys very, very soon. And thank you once again. See you later.
Try for now.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.